We're going. It's the workflow is happening. It's a
podcast. We're casting the pod, folks. Like a fisherman casting a net.
Fishers of men.
Yeah, casters of pod.
Casters of pod, fishers of men.
Oh, you casters of pod.
Hello and welcome to There's Your Problem. It's a podcast about engineering disasters with slides. I'm Justin Rosniak. I'm the person who's talking right now. My pronouns are he and him. Okay, go.
I'm November Kelly. I'm the person who's talking now. My pronouns are she and her. Yay, Liam.
Yay, Liam. Hi, I'm Liam McAnderson. My pronouns are he and him. And we have a guest.
Hello. My name is Maya Ventura. My pronouns are it and she. Cis people be a little easy about the it, but that's just how it goes. You probably know me from nothing because I am somebody who has parlayed a parasocial relationship into appearing on a podcast, and it's quite cool.
Very successfully, because it was a strong pitch of.
I guess slides we can already.
yeah. So we had to do less work, which is to say almost none, and we had a very clickbaity title, which is. We could put like the really like YouTube bait thumbnail up here with all of us, making the Mr. Beast face and going, why this plane means that America can't build planes anymore.
Also, the second Maya to have been on this podcast to use it pronouns.
This is true.
How are you keeping track of this?
I also do this, actually.
I'm pretty sure only Mayas have used it pronouns on this podcast.
So we're studying this here. There's a correlation.
Yeah, I got a big spreadsheet of all the pronouns.
The master pronoun sheet.
You keep that right next to the podcast ideas master list.
Yeah, exactly. I'm tracking the trends. We're going to see what gender's doing in this country.
Data. We'll be tracking it very closely.
Accidentally picking from the wrong spreadsheet, and we do a 4-hour episode on the pronouns they and them.
Oh, God.
Oh, no.
I assume we'd be in favor. Like,
yeah.
Absolutely. We're gonna.
But I do like the idea of 4 hours on just pronouns.
No, the discourse will get confusing.
Oh yeah,
afterwards, I would assume.
I'll be drowning.
Exactly.
We as a country are on like our several million of pronoun discourse, so like a podcast wouldn't really be that hard of a sell.
That's a good point.
I say we as a country, but also the UK, so everybody.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
What if we did a podcast about gender?
Whoa!
Wow!
Well, there's your gender.
Yeah, we just assign it to you. At random.
There you go.
Yeah, somehow it's always right. Yeah,
I have a predictive model that says this is your gender.
AI
this is actually the same predictive model that determines which mayor to do next on No Gods No Mayors.
Oh yeah, brilliant.
The Mentaculous.
Well, the problem is when the predictive model assigns the mayor the wrong gender.
You hate to see it.
It happened with the Rudy Giuliani episode. We've moved past it. But.
Sorry, the model is right. Reality is frequently inaccurate. Anyway,
assume a perfectly spherical gender.
Assume a perfectly spherical Rudy Giuliani.
Yeah. What we see on the screen here is the new 777 Twitter.
Of course.
You can look at pictures of it. Very difficult to see it in real life. And that's what we're going to talk about today.
Fantastic. The plane that killed Boeing, or will kill Boeing, before Boeing kills us.
One of several planes that killed Boeing.
To be fair, the plane killing Boeing is really an act of self-defense, considering what Boeing, does to whistleblowers and passengers.
Yep.
Yeah.
But before we do that, we have to do the goddamn news.
Oh, this is a terrific Chiron.
So holy shit, what is going on?
I don't know. I don't know. For a while I thought we were all just gonna die. And now it seems like maybe we're not gonna die for a minute until we do
It'll
die.
take a bit, yeah.
Have you seen the euthanasia coaster, the roller coaster that at some point down like snaps your neck several times and then whips it back and forth like a dog?
Is too steep.
Yeah. Well, even so, that's kind of like that's how I'm feeling with the markets, you know.
Yeah, the we don't know what the tariffs are anymore or how long they're going to last. It's going to be really funny
a lot
because
of stuff exempted now. Maybe I don't know. I have the New York Times open.
The last whatchamacallit episode we recorded was right after the tariffs were put in, and that hasn't come out yet. So now we're reporting on. We have no fucking clue what's going on anymore, guys.
It's one of the worst combinations of like lag between episode recording and release and news cycle speed. So many things happen.
It's tragic.
I'm still pretty bullish on the power grid going down. I think they're going to fuck it up that badly.
I'll buy that.
I don't know. Power outage this morning.
I mean, extrapolating from that, it's only a matter of time. But like, I genuinely have no idea at this point, and I've learned to kind of. Trump has taught me Buddha nature. I've learned that my desires, are hindering me. My sort of like my needs are impermanent. I don't actually need a new graphics card, and not only that, but I should embrace uncertainty and sort of like. I should, just allow it to wash over me.
Yeah, it's a buyer's market, maybe? Question mark?
So I guess what's happened is there's been a 90-day pause on the tariffs to some extent.
Maybe.
To what extent, no one actually knows. My other understanding is no one actually knows how to collect the tariffs. So the collections haven't actually happened.
They're trying to reimburse some, which I guess just means not doing them. And I'm just like, at this point, all I can say is that the price of the Patreon feed is now reciprocal with the tariffs, but there are a number of exceptions. And so the Patreon doesn't currently cost $2,000 a month, but in 90 days it might, unless you meet a number of criteria.
Who's to say?
Well, who's to say? We might have, something stupid happen to the dollar. There's some bullshit happening in the bond markets that I don't understand.
Yes.
There's what's the other one? Okay, so most of the tariffs have been suspended except the tariffs on China, which have been increased to, I don't know, 100 and something percent.
145.
Yeah, functionally it may as well be
the wrong answer by the time this comes out.
It might be the wrong answer now.
Don't you feel stupid, Maya?
and I mean the other fun thing is trying to charge like $1 million for each time a Chinese built or flagged or crewed ship docks in a US port, which is like as if you weren't hamstrung enough by the Jones Act. That's really fun.
That's for the that's for the ships that are compliant with the Chinese Jones Act.
I mean, you're gonna have to start doing like that one seafood company and running everything that comes into the US over like 45 meters of technically Canadian railroad in order to make it Jones Act compliant.
Mm-hmm.
I miss it already. I love a regulatory loophole, and I'm sure that they'll find others.
Yeah, I mean, the way this is going to affect business, I think just people are going to stop importing things for a while. I know a lot of containers are just being sent back to China. I know that the one thing I saw a press release from was Rapido trains. They do a bunch of nice HO scale model trains. They're all made in China, and they were like, yeah, we think these tariffs are going to disappear pretty soon, so we're just not importing anything until they disappear.
We're waiting until the bond markets like whack Trump over the head enough with a big 2x4. I mean, this is the thing. They can't like just get rid of him like they did Liz Truss. At least I don't think they can. I don't know if the bond markets have shooters like that.
You could invoke whatever, the 25th Amendment.
Yeah,
no, the 20, whatever it is, one of the later amendments.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's all insane. It's all completely unpredictable.
Sure is, Nova.
And my favorite detail was I saw a Vox Pop. I saw an interview with a guy who got, I think, maybe maximally screwed by the tariffs just in like a short-term bets situation, because he bought a new iPhone, sort of panic buying before the tariffs came in, the day before the smartphones were exempted from the tariffs.
All right. Yeah, they did exempt a bunch of consumer electronics from the tariffs, which, is sure, great, fine. What about all the other stuff that comes from China?
Yeah,
like, not everything that comes from China is like a smartphone. There's like industrial equipment and shit.
You don't need clothes. You don't need shoes. You don't need industrial equipment or anything like that.
You definitely don't need you definitely don't need spare parts for industrial equipment you already have.
Well, the thing is, Trump knows what his constituency is, which is gamers and posters, and so obviously the price of graphics card or smartphone cannot go up.
Yeah, I was gonna say I found out about this because it was in the mechanical keyboard community, because they exempted
I've seen this,
keycaps and switches under like certain specific definitions, and it was very funny, especially since I just switched to like a rubber dome keyboard.
That would be really nice if the company that I was supposedly shipping me my keycaps last year ever bothered to do that. Clearly an early victim of the tariffs, I guess.
Well, here's the thing is, like, I know a lot of like retro tech hobbyists, in like the iPod parts scene specifically. Like, nobody's getting the parts that they buy just because the Chinese companies, even though they're now exempt from the tariffs, just don't want to bother.
President Trump.
I was just about to buy an old. Oh man, that sucks for me.
President Donald J. Trump. I am willing to like praise you to the extent that you do what I want, just like anyone. Please authorize drone strikes on. Wait, no, I can't say that. Please consider investigating the use of like all necessary federal responses against Aloha KB for their fucking biotech and firearm keycaps, because I really wanted them and I ordered them like fucking 5 years ago and they just didn't. They've never shipped the fucking things. So
wow,
I need my retro iPod, please, because my Shenling M0 broke. And I need a new digital audio player, and I really want a nice iPod with a Bluetooth mod. Please, Donald Trump.
This is the thing, though. On the one hand,
Roz, what do you want from the tariffs?
What do I want from the tariffs?
What do you want from Tariff Santa?
Yeah, Tariff Santa. There we go.
Wow, he comes down the chimney and hands you a huge bill. And you still have to give him milk and cookies.
a single lump of coal, and then charges you $3,000.
The problem with this situation is either we have an insane economic collapse and all get cholera because water systems stop working because there's no spare parts, or Congress removes the president and then J.D. Vance becomes president. And
third option.
That is very I don't know which is worse.
Third option: National Reunification Salvation Government under General Mark Milley.
Yeah, all right, whatever, man.
I'm sure excited for the pro woke junta.
I'll take a woke military coup.
Sure.
Yeah, it's just the new president comes on TV in uniform and is like, all right, 4 things. Thing number 1, politics is over, no more voting. Thing number 2, the war in Ukraine continues forever. Thing number 3, mandatory pronouns. Thing number 4, Donald Trump has been.
We can't say that. They're gonna yell at us. You can't. I was listening to the bonus episode on Catholicism with my parents because I thought my dad would find it funny, and I did really like Devin being like, I've been playing pretty offhandedly with the bonus episode, but you absolutely cannot say that. So thank you, Devin, for making my mom laugh at me.
Yeah, thank you for saving us from ourselves so often.
Yes.
So yeah,
fucked.
Here to say, this is a piece of news. We don't know what's happening anymore, folks.
And neither do you, dickhead.
Neither do you.
We're all completely out of touch with everything, And that's fine.
But so is everyone else.
Yeah, they're not calling it a black billowing cloud anymore. They're calling it the airborne toxic event.
Oh, great band.
We're all floating in uncertainty in a sort of comforting black toxic cloud.
I will say it is nice to wake up and read a headline that's like Donald Trump hates everybody rather than just Donald Trump hates trans people.
That's true.
That's true.
It has been a pleasant. It has been a pleasant shift to share in the misery that I have been experiencing nonstop for the past 4 months.
Yeah, no pronouns, but also no iPhones.
Mm-hmm.
I again,
you get nothing.
Playermods.com. If anyone on the Patreon wants to buy me this 2 terabytes with the 3,000 milliamp hour battery, please, I'll take that. It's $849 somehow.
The Aloha KB firearm keycaps looked really, really good, and then they just never shipped them. To blow up the Three Gorges Dam. No choice. No option.
I just wanted a new mouse wheel for my nice mouse.
I can get you a new mouse wheel, but I have to wear the Tariff Santa hat.
I mean, like
Jewish
the MAGA
Santa really rolls off the tongue.
The MAGA hat already is the same color as a Santa hat, so if you just embossed a "Make America Great Again" on the front of a Santa hat.
Oh God,
This probably exists. Yeah,
MAGA Santa hat. That's it auto completed. Yeah, it exists.
Oh God.
That's one of the worst things I've ever thought of in my life. Thank you.
Speaking of worst things, in other news,
I didn't mean it when I said blow up the Three Gorges Dam. If anything,
she did. Yes, she did.
I feel cool ship lift and everything there.
I feel happiest when I'm lighting my American cigarettes with my Chinese matches. Like I just support both sides and doing whatever they're doing. So long as it doesn't inconvenience me in any way.
Yeah,
Speaking of inconveniencing
me, a bunch of nodes of distribution and something.
It's a borderless network of transport and supply. Yes,
exactly.
Correct,
yeah.
But so speaking of the British steelmaking industry is kind of just over at this point.
What's happened to you?
Well, we had one remaining set of blast furnaces left, which are these in Scunthorpe. Because we closed
integrated steel mill.
Yeah.
As opposed to mini mills that, only pussies have.
This is the like last big steelworks that we have that still makes like virgin steel. Doesn't have any as many imperfections in it, isn't recycled steel. Because we closed the second to last one in Port Talbot. And that one just closed and 2,000 people lost their jobs. This one, the government stepped in at the last minute, except maybe too late at the last minute, because it's seeming like they're going to renationalize British Steel. And, that's great news for the next 5-year plan and all the rest of it,
Yes.
But
chocolate rations are going up.
Yeah, exactly. But the problem is that this steelworks was owned by a Chinese parent corporation that had basically realized that this is a completely uneconomical industry to be doing in the UK because electricity is really, really expensive. And it's quite difficult to build things and these are old blast furnaces that have been running since the 50s.
Don't have there's no coal, there's no iron.
Yeah,
well, there is coal, but they don't mine it anymore in Britain.
Yeah. I mean, so they stopped ordering the stuff that you need to keep the blast furnaces going, the coal and the iron, and in fact actively started selling off some of the stock of them, and so the government is now sort of forced their way into, they haven't renationalized yet, but to make them keep the furnaces on, but it may just be too late. And exactly how bad is it to have to restart a blast furnace is not a question I know the answer to, but much like how long is the transplant list, I feel like it's a question that if you're asking, you're not in a good place in the first place.
Yeah, I would hazard a guess it's at least a couple weeks.
The transplant list?
No, the transplant list I assume is much longer than that. But the starting the blast furnace. You know, you got to do a lot of stuff when you're trying to start up a furnace that's that hot and that big, just so it doesn't accumulate moisture and then explode.
So we are like the taxpayer now, I guess, is losing £700,000 a day on this steelworks.
Wow.
Just because, like I say, it's their electricity bill went up like £120 million, £120 million last year, and it's this strange thing where we know on a headline basis, or politicians seem to know on a headline basis, that you need some kind of steel making capacity, right? But have never invested anything in trying to maintain it, or
I mean, having a whole country without an integrated steel mill is embarrassing. You know, that's just the long and short of it. There, it's like, you know,
and you'll have no domestic steel production. You're saying that correctly, right?
If you have no domestic steel production, that is embarrassing.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, you're third world now.
Yeah, I mean, like I understand the deal is that we'll keep recycling steel, because they were trying to like move them from these blast furnaces to electric arc furnaces, which are a bit sort of like less carbon-y.
Yeah, well, that's again because you're only recycling, and you just add lots of electricity to scrap steel, and you get new steel out of it. You know, and a lot of sparks.
Big spark factory.
Yes, exactly.
It's true.
But yeah, so this is maybe like the kind of capstone on a 160-year industrial legacy. And it's cool if they are able to preserve the jobs. I don't know long term about that, and it's also striking that they intervened in this way to do this, but in Port Talbot, the last steel mill that shut down, which is in Wales, neither the Welsh government nor the UK government were that fast. And like 2,000 people lost their jobs. So I don't know. It's real bad, and I feel like this is all like a series of deep structural like wounds that are all kind of like have all sort of combined to get us to this point.
Yeah, and if you don't have steel, how are you going to fix the structure?
Right, yeah, structural steel.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, how are you going to get all of the guys like hammering on the big I-beam to make the communism if you can't even make an I-beam anymore?
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Like, none of us are going to have those building communism jobs if there's no steel to build communism out of. It's the basic resource of communism.
I'm pretty sure that Donald Trump's tariffs are going to bring the steel industry back everywhere somehow.
Yeah. What you want from Tariff Santa is a global steel industry thing. I mean, it's also like just the kind of reciprocal of the Chinese steel industry doing very well and having, therefore it's very easy to get a lot of cheap steel. You just have to ship it from China, not just China, but places where it is cheap to make. Whereas it's very expensive here, and so we're just
they've done this amazing thing in China that we don't really like to do in the West, which is every once in a while they go through and modernize the facility.
We don't need that. Fuck you.
Yeah, we just turn them into apartment buildings and tourist attractions here.
Yeah, exactly. As opposed to, or just running the same shit from 1950 for 70 years.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Well, that last one is the British way, and specifically like this thing of trying to get them to move to these electric arc furnaces. The government was like, okay, you're gonna get 2 of these furnaces, right? One in Scunthorpe where the plant is now, one in Teesside, and then we're gonna give you £500 million to do that. When the owners were like, this will cost 1.25 billion, and then they didn't get planning permission for one of them anyway. So it's actually kind of illegal to build anything.
That's why we need abundance, I guess.
Maybe everybody can have podcast jobs. Maybe we can all,
No, those are for me. Those are for me.
You could have a little electric arc furnace in your backyard.
Yeah,
right next to your Yeah, right
Make a
next
lot of
to
sparks.
Back Kiss Nuke. What?
We're upgrading everyone's electrical service to like 11 kilovolts.
Yeah, it's gonna be like Texas A&M in this bitch.
I love to just stand near an electrical outlet and just get like arc flash vaporized instantly. Just 2 boot prints on the floor, just scorch marks.
We are upgrading everybody's electrical capacity on the electrical grid that is going to collapse.
Yeah, I feel
so
like
you need special gloves to access the breaker panel in your own house now.
I just feel like more and more Britain's economy is a game of workers and resources that has gone horribly wrong.
Yes. Yep, it's gonna have to shut down the steel mill. Oh shit, we got too many people. I can't afford to import the electronics anymore.
What we need to do... wait, shit. I was going to do a joke about how I always play workers and resources, which is you just run like an oil field until you have more money than you know what to do with, so that you can just do everything else, because the oil industry runs without needing to move workers around, and I don't understand how to do that. So I fuck up on all other parts of the map that's subsidized by an oil industry that runs itself. That's what Britain did with North Sea oil.
Yeah.
We just did that. It is a workers and resources game.
And Norway figured it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, I come from like Western Pennsylvania, Eastern Ohio. Sorry to harsh the Philadelphia, but the whole everybody loses their jobs and the government doesn't have anything to do about it is like that's the stories I've been hearing for my entire life. Because people just never stop talking about it. And you know, they voted for Donald Trump to bring the steel jobs back 40 years later. So hopefully, with any luck, the British people will get a Donald Trump of their own to destroy the British Empire finally.
Oh yeah.
It'd be really funny to try and do all of the tariff Santa stuff, but we just don't have the economic power of the US. It'll be like Argentina. We just bankrupt ourselves by being like, 500% tariffs on China. China does not notice.
Yes, but then you would get special White House visits. Like, I don't actually know how his name is pronounced.
Yeah,
Milei?
Nayib Bukele, yeah.
No, that's El Salvador.
Javier Milei, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's he's the prison guy. Milei is the economics guy.
Yeah, well, in many ways, they're both the economics guy and both the prison guy.
Sure.
Yeah. So
I read about that from a guy called Michel Foucault.
Ooh. In many ways, a steel mill is like a prison, though.
Yeah, for real.
It's true.
So anyway, the lesson here is export oil.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I think the lesson here is split the atom. But to be honest, we don't even bother doing that.
I understand you could make money off of that if you import the raw uranium ore and then you build the factory, the various factories, and then you export the finished uranium fuel. I've never tried it in the game, but I've heard it works pretty good. You got to invest some research in first, though.
This is the dynamic. This is the sort of dramaturgical dyad between me and you, right? Is that you're a workers and resources level brain, and I'm a Tropico 4 level brain. That's the kind of economics I'm capable of like digesting.
I think that was the goddamn news.
That's right.
So first, we must ask, what is Boeing?
I don't know, but this is gorgeous.
Airplane formerly. I do like this.
Yeah,
I've seen this plane recently. It's quite nice.
Paint the engines burgundy.
Yes,
a normal sentence said by a sane person.
I mean, even if you didn't paint them at this point, they were like polished metal, which looks a lot better than carbon fiber. No, not carbon fiber. Aluminum.
This is a flying conversation pit, and I love it so much.
Oh yeah. This is a Boeing 707. Boeing is the company that makes some of the airplanes that you may fly around in. They used to be headquartered in Seattle. They aren't anymore.
We'll
discuss that later.
I stand by the Comet episode. No matter how many people it killed, de Havilland was robbed. Like it should have been us. You should be flying on a plane named after some kind of astronomical phenomenon. It should kill you. and you should feel good about it.
Well, we have at least one of those things.
yeah, but it's always kind of an imitation, you know. Like it's it's not. It doesn't have the lunch pail kind of like meat and potatoes killing you that you used to have.
Anyway, so Boeing started. I didn't put any notes down here. I'm just going from memory.
Would you say you're Boeing from memory?
Boeing from memory, yeah.
Boeing from memory.
Hey,
Thank you, Maya. Thank you, Maya.
Take a drink, folks.
You're winging it, would you say?
Wow.
No, I wouldn't say that. Get the gun out. Get the fun gun.
They started making airplanes before World War II. They sort of got lucky eventually because they were headquartered in Seattle. Seattle has a lot of cheap electricity from hydropower from the Columbia River, which meant a lot of aluminum factories set up there because you got to use a lot of electricity to make aluminum. Boom, you can make great airplanes out of that because it's really light. Boeing sort of with their 707, they really create like the first modern airliner. And, they've, iterated on the concept ever since, and they had, eventually where we, through a very long process of consolidation, we wind up with the current situation we're in today, which is, you want an airliner, you get a Boeing or an Airbus or maybe an Embraer. But I don't think Embraer, that's on the small end of the market. There's more people. Big end, not just the two. So yeah, that's my very brief, incoherent history of Boeing.
That seemed pretty coherent to me.
That's about right. They did the 707 and then they did the 747, and everything else has been some form of slot, pretty much.
Yeah.
Just to pressing the button to crank out another slight variation of the the 707.
I'd love to defend the 757, but every time I've been on one, it's just been the most horrendously bumpy flight I've ever been on.
This has also been true for me. I still, if I'm booking a flight, I'm usually booking a flight to Seattle, and if I fly through Atlanta, you'll sometimes get like a 757, and like that is exciting to me. And it's bad when a 757 is the most exciting thing that an American airline can give me.
What's the tiny one, the like little miniature Boeing? Because that's kind of low key my favorite.
That's a few things. The 747 SP we talked about.
The 717.
I don't even know. This is the thing. I don't know my Boeing family at all.
You could get a really tiny 737.
You could, but you haven't been able to do that for quite a few years now.
You get I don't know.
It is a 737. That's the one that I like. Yeah,
the 737-100 technically.
Yeah,
which they have not built for 50 years.
Damn.
Wow.
Well, Nova lives in a different dimension than the rest of us.
I haven't flown in a long time because of the transgender scans.
I was gonna say because of woke, and then I realized it was the exact opposite of that.
It's because you're woke, so it is
true.
Because of woke.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, the good news is I got my passport back, and I have the yearn to like travel again properly. So we'll see how long that lasts until it gets like trauma blasted out of me at a some airport security somewhere.
Oh no!
Gotta go. Take the Eurostar. I don't know what security they do that. Anyway, what security
airport style, which much the same.
Fuck yeah,
that sucks.
Yeah, see, Amtrak is nice because they just let me walk on the train without anything at all.
They don't give a shit. Yeah,
they don't usually. They have not checked my ticket the last couple times I've been on it.
They truly don't give a fuck.
Yeah. All right. Anyway,
that's a Boeing. Here are more Boeings.
Here are more Boeings.
Oh look, back when paint liveries used to be, or plane liveries, there we go, used to be cool and good.
I feel real bad on this one for people who just listen to the podcast instead of looking at the slides, because
give us that YouTube engagement, nerds.
I like a livery. But my problem as ever is every airline designed a good livery in like 1965. And then they made, this is something that I'm actually like socially conservative about, is they designed a good livery once and then they kept changing it and making it worse. And they should, like, it's always the thing where they're like, oh, we've introduced as like a special fun bonus PR activity. We've gone to like a throwback thing, and it's like, if it's so good and fun, why didn't you keep it?
I would say the railroads also did something similar. I think most stuff did something similar. Like, back when you could produce like a big graphic design book, like a corporate identity book, you don't have that anymore. People put a lot of thought into the design of these things. And now it's kind of like, I don't know, put a vinyl wrap of swoosh or something on there.
Yeah, you know what it is mostly that I think could fix all of this is if you went back to the kind of livery that gives the plane the kind of like black nose cone. That would be a big deal for me, because all of the ones that I like have that, and now it's just like, the stripes just like terminate there or whatever. And
as I mentioned earlier, we need to go back to Pacific Southwest Airlines thought. Big smile on the front, big black nose like a friendly dog.
Yeah. The plane should be more like a dog. I don't know why this is controversial. It shouldn't be.
Anyway, I think this part is for Maya.
Yes. So this is the regular 777, which is where we're going to get started today. These 4 were like 4 of the original launch customers for it. I only chose them because they're for the slide because I think the liveries look nice. All of these were, 1960s through 1980s and 90s logos, or liveries rather. So, lost art. People tend to think I'm crazy about the United one, but
no,
I stand by it.
The United one is good. Yeah.
Yes, I think a plane that is not just white is something that we've lost sight of, and they don't do the bare aluminum either, because planes are made out of too many things now.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, people used to do this with cars as well, and then like people started thinking about resale value, much like airlines did, and so everything just became like white or silver, and in a really generic way. And it's like, people used to have cars that came painted from the factory in colors other than white or silver.
Yes. Red.
So my friend June, who's been on the podcast, got courtesy towed yesterday.
Why?
And I had to help her because she parked in a space, and then that space, they did construction there, so they moved her car to next location, and I had to help her find it yesterday. And I was just astonished, like trying to look at all the damn cars in the city. There's like 3 kinds of car and like 3 colors of car these days.
It's all a crossover, and they all hate you. Cars suck now.
Yeah.
Oh, it's safer than ever, and you can get more power than ever. No horsepower wars. Shut the fuck up.
No, they all look the same. They're all identical. They're white, they're gray, or they're black.
Yeah. Yeah. No. It car design now is so like just monoculture in a way that's really grim and depressing.
Generic. It's awful. Right. It's awful.
Right.
Anyway, it took about like an hour and a half of searching, but we found it.
Jesus.
And it was parked in a spot that was scheduled to be courtesy towed the next day.
just getting your car sequentially express kidnapped.
Yeah. Well, people have had like their cars like impounded after being courtesy towed, and then they have to go to court, and the court says, "Fuck you. We don't know that you didn't park it there."
Right.
Sure. Private towing is fascism, etc., etc.
I believe that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there is one company making a car that looks different. I believe it's called the Cybertruck.
Oh, it sure does look different.
It do look different. That's true.
Different, parentheses, derogatory. Anyway, this United livery they call it the Battleship Gray, which is funny to me because the word battleship really pisses off my wife in particular, and that's the only reason I find it funny. Next slide. So the 777 started sometime in the mid 1980s to fill sort of a gap that existed in the Boeing product line, because they had the 757 and the 767. And, those were both doing pretty well. But, like, if you wanted anything bigger than that, you had to get the 747. And, like, those are expensive, right? Like,
a lot of people doing like sort of like car salesman hard sell stuff and being like, yeah, a lot of airlines find themselves kind of intimidated about the prospect of owning a plane this cool.
So
are you a bad enough man to rescue the 7?
I don't think anybody's rescuing Boeing or the 747 anymore.
No.
They initially started as like these tri-jet designs, which is another lost art of ours. This is, that has the big engine
a lot
and the
of
tail.
People, but it looks so good.
Oh, sure, yes. But like that was just McDonnell Douglas's fault, right? Like the engine itself, except on United 232, which was another, we call that a callback. There was another episode of the. Except in like 2 specific cases, the design itself has not killed anybody. It was mostly there for
Your Honor, accepting these 2 cases.
That's a lot of flights that went successfully.
Yeah. No one ever talks about when the planes don't crash.
Count the rings.
Yeah. Look, I've flown on the Max twice now. I was fine.
Yeah, I'm sure you had a bully good time.
I flew on
I didn't. You were there.
I know.
I got to fly the Max before they grounded them all. That's really exhilarating to know in hindsight. The third engine was mostly a regulatory thing. The FAA didn't want to let planes with 2 engines fly over an ocean. This is pretty much all there is to it. It wasn't, by the time the like mid 60s rolled around, it wasn't actually, planes could get across. Jet engines were reliable enough that they could cross an ocean with 2 engines. It was fine. But the Carter and the Reagan FAAs said something to the respects of no way in hell I will let a twin airliner cross the Atlantic Ocean, which is a really strange thing to have such an aggressive opinion on.
It's very I was gonna say, okay.
I think it's one of those like common sense things, right? It's like what if you lose like both engines and then the opening of BioShock happens to you?
Right.
I believe that's also why the Acela Express is restricted from using its tilting mechanism where it'd be most useful. Or some similar insane decision that.
It's so funny to me that like you can actually find examples of like regulatory overreach or whatever if you bother to look, but it's never the ones that conservatives worry about. They're too busy hunting down pronouns.
Sure.
Yeah, they're trying to figure out a way to make child labor come back.
Right.
Yeah.
I looked this up. It was Reagan's FAA director who said, "quote It'll be a cold day in hell before I let twins fly over water routes." Close quote. Which is really funny because he cared a lot about safety in that respect, but did not care about it in terms of air traffic control. Which is why, of course, they did the Reagan FAA ruined air traffic control unions in this country.
Yes, the final. As Hunter Thompson said, the final dirty victory of management over labor when they broke the PATCO strike.
Well, the thing is, like the PATCO and the unions in general reacted so weakly to it that like that's why the White House is just saying they can end collective bargaining for all federal employees, because they point at this precedent and go, look, they're not going to fight back too hard, and like. They might be right about that, but it's bullshit.
Yes.
So I have a lot of opinions about labor, but that's a different podcast episode, I think. So where was I here? Yeah. So these were the 2 of the first designs. In the mid 80s, the FAA starts entertaining the idea of letting planes fly over water with 2 engines. They eventually decide they call it ETOPS, ETOPS, extended range twin engine something.
It stands for engines turn or passengers swim.
Yes.
I was also going to say that, yes.
Me too.
We've all heard the one joke about this.
So by the time that they come out with that, Boeing ditches these designs entirely because they don't need to anymore. Next slide, please. I like having TA-like person. Next slide for me. It's quite nice. McDonnell Douglas had already started building one with 3 engines by this point, so they just said fuck it and kept doing it. That was the MD-11. It didn't do too well for a lot of reasons, but like you can probably guess the one because I think I just said it.
They used these for cargo for a while longer, didn't they?
They still do, actually. Might just be in the US. UPS and FedEx love them, but
because they got more power
and they're cheap. That's the more important thing there. Yeah. So like by the later 80s, like every major airline has like a fleet of DC-10s or TriStars that are now very old and they would like to retire and get something nicer. So there are 2 planes in the US that get shopped around for that. One is the MD-11, pictured at the bottom right here, but also the original 777, pictured at the top left. Airbus also tries to shop the A330 around. That doesn't really go anywhere.
Yeah, people are still big on like die by wire. Every French person has
big
brain
American muscle plane.
Can't corner, however. On a prepped surface, this thing could really scream.
So one thing to remember, one thing that's important about the MD-11 specifically was that a lot of its various designs and systems were both wildly cost cut and outsourced extensively. And the end result of that is the reason a lot of people give for why McDonnell Douglas gave up on making commercial aircraft, but also gave up being a company.
Oh dear.
Yeah. But now they didn't go out of business. That's going to be important later, as is the outsourcing part. That's going to be very important later. The MD-11, which I'm going to talk about for a minute because it is important, even though it may not sound like it. I'm just going to talk about how bad it is.
Just a short slide about kicking the absolute shit out of this tri-jet here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Which is funny, which is a shame because I really like it. It's really cute, but like,
stunk as a plane.
Yes. American Airlines was one of they weren't a launch customer, but they bought them fairly early on because McDonnell Douglas told them it could fly from Dallas to Hong Kong nonstop.
That's a hike. That feels like a lie.
Well, it was. They found that out like immediately.
Oh, yes.
I can't do. How did you find out? Oh, well, it never showed up.
Yeah. Also, it's in the ocean. We can see it from here.
Yeah. Or just like the entire like sort of like passenger compartment of the flight coming out of Dallas, just throwing their 10-gallon hats on the ground. And as they find out they're not going to make it.
We used to be
Hong Kong.
Super Bowl champions. The last time the Dallas Cowboys won a Super Bowl, my wife was not yet born. So, go Eagles.
Go Birds.
Go Birds. In fairness, they were cooking with the throwing your hat on the ground to indicate your displeasure thing. Yeah, but then you got to pick up your own hat and dust it off, which sucks.
Where do you divert to? That's what I want to know.
Buddy. I don't like that nervous laughter is our answer to that.
It's like a bunch of like Dallas business people landing in Ussurisk.
Yeah.
So
what in tarnation? It's a disputed island between Japan and Russia.
So they go to McDonnell Douglas to ask what the hell because the plane doesn't do what they promised. McDonnell Douglas puts them on what they call, swear to God, I'm reading this from the documentation. They call it a performance improvement plan.
Like an employee? Like you put an employee on?
That is.
I've been pimped. Fuck you.
Yeah. Just like calling the plane into a mandatory meeting.
What would you say you do here? And the response is just a high-pitched jet engine whine.
The response is not fly to Hong Kong.
I can't do high-pitched jet engine, but I can do R2-D2, and I apologize to anyone who had to hear that.
So them and the engine manufacturer, who I did not write down, and I assume is probably General Electric, but I'm not sure off the top of my head.
Butthole Motors Inc. Yes.
This is buy not Rolls-Royce, buy twice.
they said they went back. They took like a year and a half. They went back to American Airlines and told them that they had fixed the plane and said that to all their customers. But it still couldn't fly to Hong Kong. So American just gives up and sells them all to FedEx for probably half what they paid for them like 5 years prior.
They gotta have like a lemon law or something.
Yeah.
Lemon law for my big ass plane, yeah.
Cash for clunkers.
1877 cars for planes.
So this was 1995. So these were like brand new planes, and to get a brand new plane converted directly to a cargo jet, it's not a good sign for your business if you are doing nothing but cargo aircraft. It's also important to remember about Boeing. So in designing the 777, Boeing just started fresh completely, and they came up with this twin engine design, which a group of major airlines had input on. I don't have the list in front of me, but like the 3 major legacy American carriers were on there. British Airways was on there.
Yeah,
there was a couple of others.
Functionally, I'm envisioning an airline version of like the sort of like priests scene from Hail Caesar,
right? Or
trying to get all these different guys to agree on the nature of the airplane.
The 5 families meeting for the mob, I think, is what we're looking at here.
I'm imagining like a sort of
my airplane's release,
sort of airline Comintern.
All right, I fuck with the phrase airline Comintern.
Yeah, I want to be on that after the revolution. I want to be on that.
Yeah.
It was the 3 of the major American airlines, the 3 that still exist, but like they weren't the only ones at the time, corporate mergers. I pulled the list up. All Nippon Airways and Japan Airlines, American, Delta, United, Qantas, British, and Cathay Pacific. So that's what? The US, Japan, Britain, Australia, and Hong Kong, who are the major superpowers of the world.
Yes, Air Canada gets left in the cold.
It's true.
You guys have heard of Five Eyes, but not for you.
They were in the cold to start out with. It's Canada.
You're lucky you're so cute.
Yeah.
Boeing tells them the design by like 1991-ish. United immediately orders a shit ton of them. American also does because they're really pissed off about the MD-11s. Delta also gets it. It's really hard to underestimate how mad they were that they got sold a plane.
At this MD-11 revenge game, basically.
There are 2 companies that make planes at this point. Nobody had heard of Airbus yet.
Right. I just got to use the bathroom. I'm sorry. I drank 3 cans of liquid, so
I have 5 drinks in front of me, so like it's fine.
You amaze me, Maya. All right.
These were firmly the like what the fuck is a kilometer years.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think by this point the only airline I actually wrote about this in the notes. Airbus starts shopping the A330 around like 1990 or so. The only major American airline that had bought Airbuses by this point was like American trialed the A300s for a while. They didn't like them too much, so they didn't order more of them, but they flew them until like 2009.
And like, why does this plane keep calling me the R slur? They should have thought about that.
Northwest Airlines was, I think, the only other airline that bought a bunch of Airbus aircraft because they had like the oldest fleet in the country at that point. Mostly DC-10s were the issue here, so they bought a bunch of A320s initially, but they also bought a bunch of A330s.
Understandable to be like we're new and modern. If previous to that your Northwestern flight had been we kick you out of a C-47, like it's D-Day.
It's funny actually because like they bought the new Airbuses, but like they didn't get rid of most of their older planes until like the 2000s, and even then,
just like I could see daylight through the floor.
Even then, they kept a lot of them until they got bought by Delta, which is why the DC-9s were built in like the 70s and early 80s, and I got to fly on one in like 2015, which was a slightly fucked experience. It was the most bare bones plane experience you can imagine, but it was interesting. It was loud as hell. I don't even remember where I was flying. I just remember the plane was really loud. But
yeah, you started out being able to remember, but then after like 10 minutes,
it's true. Right.
Yeah. Northwest bought some of them. US Air also bought a bunch of A330s. Yeah, A330s, but that was mostly because Airbus gave them a good deal because they didn't have a long haul fleet at that point and they wanted to get a customer. I don't know any of the details of that. I'm calling this kind of an educated guess, but like I could talk a lot about US Airways, mostly because I hate them because I'm from Pittsburgh. But in any case,
good enough.
See, if I could talk about that for a while, and if I keep thinking, I'm going to get mad, so I'm going to move on. The design of the plane you see at top left was done by 1993, and they built it and finished it April 9th, 1994, which was almost 31 years ago, like 4 days ago, I guess.
Yeah, they created the perfect aircraft.
They did. They did actually create the perfect aircraft with this one. It's the other ones, the other derivatives that are a problem. It first flies in June, and they give it to a customer on May 15th, 1995, which the first airline that flies them is United. It sort of becomes the flagship of United's fleet, and also sort of like the American fleet. Like the 747 was still out, but by this point it was kind of dwindling because we were gradually moving away from planes that big. And as a matter of fact, they had actually gotten permission from the government to fly even longer than the original ETOPS specification. ETOPS 180 was designed with the 777 in mind, and all the new planes they built were certified with that. The MD-11s weren't, so that was not great for anybody. Sorry, I'm just kicking the shit out of the MD-11 still, but
it deserves it. You're doing your best.
McDonnell Douglas deserves it at least.
That's true.
Yeah.
In 1997, Boeing launches the 777-200 extended range, which is just the same version of the original plane that can fly longer. They also do the 777-300, which is longer and has more people in it. And I use the end of the millennium as the standpoint here. We're going to go back in time a couple of years. It'll make sense. By the end of the millennium, Boeing delivered 261 777s and had another 177 they were building, over 1 million total flight hours, like a 99% dispatch reliability. This was the perfect plane.
This seems like it's going well, right? I was going to say,
yes.
What, I do have a question because I don't really know anything about commercial aviation other than I hate flying.
Sure.
What's the average, like, not order size, but like, I understand there are variants. Like, it sounded like they had about 400 planes either delivered or sort of like in the oven.
Yeah.
And is that normal? Is that a lot? Is that a little?
That is, well, for a longer haul aircraft like that nowadays, that would be considered a reasonable amount of total overall planes, orders, and deliveries.
Right.
It's kind of a low amount of orders compared to like modern long haul aircraft, but that's because everybody got worse at building planes, not because of anything else.
Okay.
I mean, the thing that I want to say here is that at least to the best of my knowledge, there has never been a fatal accident on a 777 attributable to like a mechanical failure. Other than MH370, we don't know what happened there.
Yes,
yeah. They should print that on the outside of the plane, so I'm less nervous getting on one.
In
the whole thing, including the MH370 bit.
This is God's own airplane. Okay. This is the greatest commercial airplane ever.
You hate planes.
Yeah.
Well, no, you like it as 1011.
You're like, this is the solution to the problem of plane.
Yeah, what if you just made the plane really good?
Okay, yeah, but here's the thing. You would still refuse to fly on it, bud.
A 777? No, I'm always happy when I see a 777.
Yeah, but you're never happy flying is what I mean. So, like,
well, yeah, because it's usually like 8 hours transatlantic. I'm miserable.
I was going to say, I don't miserable. My girlfriend once flew a 777 from like Newark, New Jersey to I think Shanghai, and got diverted.
Jesus fucking Christ, that sucks.
And got diverted to the middle of nowhere, freezing Canada.
Like Gardner? Not
yeah.
Gander.
Goose Bay.
Gander.
Goose
Okay,
Bay.
so we're up there. Yeah.
Yeah, Goose Bay. This is a funny story because this is just a funny story that she likes to tell. But like Canadian immigration wasn't open at the airport, so nobody could actually go anywhere. The crew timed out. Basically, they all had to stand around -5 degrees for like 20 hours, or some figure like that. And but like it didn't kill anybody.
Yeah,
so ultimately
it's not the plane that doesn't inconvenience you.
Yeah, here's the thing, right? This is the case for like every aviation geek out there, is that you love the plane, but you don't like to fly on it.
Yeah. I will say I actually had one of the only pleasant transatlantic flights on a 777 because I was booked in a row that had no one else in it.
Oh, I've done that, yeah. And I'm just like, I don't have, actually, I'm turning my webcam on just for this. Hold on. Oh, yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Hey, Toots, bring me 2 martinis. Oh.
Well, no, I was too young to drink, unfortunately.
Oh, buddy, I'm sorry.
Yeah. But I what I did do was I read Catch-22 cover to cover for the first time.
Oh, you had a good flight.
That was a really good flight. It was also during the daytime. There was no turbulence. It was fantastic. Rare flight experience these days.
Yeah. I flew I've only flown a 777 from like Toronto to Tokyo, which is kind of a weird route, but it was rather smooth, and the pre-landing snack was cup noodle. So ultimately, I'm not complaining about that.
Oh, that sounds pretty good. Yeah,
it was pretty good. I mean, like 13-hour time difference is fucking crazy, but that's a different problem.
That sounds like it sucks.
Yeah, it did.
But the cup noodle sounds like way better than the standard airline fare, though.
Yeah.
This was Air Canada, so like we're obviously we're still in North America. We're out of the U.S. and are like worst airlines on earth, but we are still in North America.
Yeah, they take away the poutine, they give you the cup noodle.
It's about right, actually. So basically, the 777 was a very good plane, and the MD-11 was very comfortable for customers, but the airlines hated it.
So the previous slide, like patting the 777 on the nose and like bopping the MD-11 with a newspaper.
Yeah.
Spraying it with the spray bottle.
And also then the MD-11 like killed a bunch of people with the Swiss Air flight, which was considered a mechanical disaster until we found out it was the in-flight entertainment system, which Boeing didn't build. But
the what? What? I mean, not to kind of like preempt a future episode there, but this is
push the wings fall off button on the chair.
This is the terror that I have. It's like I'm gonna select the wrong movie and one of the engines drops off.
I will give as brief a rundown on this as I can. So Swiss.
Okay, so say no more. Say no more. That's the future episode. Dev, if you could just like play some mood music over that for a second. Thank you so much.
I can
moving on.
I can come back for that one.
Yeah.
So the MD-11 was considered kind of a failure for a lot of reasons. That was one of them, even though it turned out to kind of be fake, but whatever. At least in terms of McDonnell Douglas's problem. I said Boeing earlier. I was wrong.
How dare you? Oh, execution. Sorry, Maya. You
that's
have to be killed.
That's okay. That's okay. That's okay, because that's a good segue. Next slide, please.
Oh no.
Yep.
1997, McDonnell Douglas has a commercial airplane division that is failing, and a defense division that is absolutely fucking massive from every respect.
Well, this is the thing. If you're kind of in the civilian airliner business and the military aircraft business, and your tagline for both is "We'll kill you," that's only going to work as a sales pitch for one of them.
This is true, yeah. Boeing was on a bit of a corporate buyout spree by this point. They had a lot of...
I will have the McDonnell Douglas "We'll kill you" t-shirt up on sale by the time this goes out.
Yeah, let me know. I can help you commission that. I don't know if it's commissioning if it's us doing it, but
yeah. Well, no, I would like to commission a little illustration of an MD-11 with the like third engine just flying off. I
was gonna say I've done shirt designs for you guys. I could do that, but I can't make the plane explode, unfortunately. Boeing has fucking billions of dollars and aren't sure what to do with it, so they just start buying out everybody.
Yeah, me when I start buying planes because I'm bored.
Yep.
They buy North American Aviation from Rockwell. That's mostly a defense company. I think it was entirely a defense company by this point, actually.
Yeah, this is the bit where they kill all of the like beloved names that were last heard of when like your great grandpa was flying against a Japanese carrier air group. Where you're like, oh man, not Chance Vought or whatever. And to be clear, I love that shit. But
this is just like they're the Macy's of airplanes.
It's true, actually.
Yeah, it's if you have to use a sentence, my airplane is what you could call an institution. We might be struggling a bit here. Oh my god.
You're McDonnell Douglas to die?
Do I want? We'll kill you.
Yeah.
it's just a real like Apollo 13 looking motherfucker with the like shirt sleeves and the pocket protector and the crew cut being like, we'll kill you.
Yep. Then I'll walk home directly in a straight line.
I like the Macy's metaphor, actually. That's pretty funny because you have one of the Philadelphia department stores that got bought up by them completely, but also they did that to Kaufman's on this side of the state. So it's relatable to both of the Pennsylvanian experiences.
Oh yeah, and then Wanamaker's was, when they were under United Department Stores, at least they let them keep the brand, and then Macy's came in and was like, no, fuck you.
Yeah, they did that.
A couple weeks ago they closed down the Center City store. Who knows what's going to happen to the organ? Anyway,
so Boeing buys North American. They also decide to buy McDonnell Douglas, which, and this gave them like not a monopoly, but it gave them a pretty powerful foothold in the defense, like a controlling interest in defense contracts.
I don't appreciate that they've lined up the two planes there side by side. They should be facing each other like they're like kissing.
Oh yeah,
that's true. Actually,
point.
So they have a large, not monopoly, but close to it on defense aircraft. The only other major contractor is like Lockheed Martin, which not as big at this point in history. Anyway,
but they have a skunk works and Boeing doesn't.
That's true.
Yeah.
They also did the Blackbird, which makes them much cooler than anything Boeing could ever make.
We don't even know what part of Boeing smells bad.
Yeah.
I have been to the main assembly plant in Everett. I can assure you that it does smell, that it smells bad there. I've actually, okay, I'm going to brief sidetrack because I mentioned that, but my favorite part of that tour was the tour guide at one point is showing us the 7.6 assembly line or what there is of it. And our tour guide, who is like this, who was this transgender twink holding a can of Monster.
Hell yeah. I love Washington.
Yeah. Points to an aircraft on the assembly line and says that it's bound for Air China. Then I look at it and it has the China Airlines logo on the side of it. Which is, that's a geopolitical problem you just started there.
Yeah.
One of them.
Yeah.
But Boeing does support the one China policy. It's just not going to say which one.
Good enough.
Yeah.
They actually had an exhibit in their like head house for guests that was like Boeing in China 50-year anniversary. And it had like the red stars graphics and everything. It was
incredible. It
was a little weird. So the board of directors of the merged Boeing McDonnell Douglas company was largely consisted of the McDonnell Douglas board after this. And once 2003 comes around, they would actually replace the CEO of Boeing with former CEO of McDonnell Douglas.
The master plan: make a bad airplane,
and
then infiltrate like a grub, like a worm, like a sort of like cordyceps. You infiltrate the more successful company.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I understand that all y'all have been making very good airplanes here, but
we're here to fuck that up.
Have you considered making bad airplanes?
So this is the point that most people point to for when Boeing starts getting bad is when they move from Seattle to Chicago, which was 2001.
And now they're in Crystal City, right?
Yeah, not yet, but they will be.
Oh crap! God, no one should be there.
Yeah, no.
just demolish the neighborhood. Put Potomac Yard back up.
Yes.
Burn it straight down.
I wrote an article about this, which is where the idea for the slide deck came from. But is Boeing moving to be very close to the Pentagon is very
on brand.
Yeah.
Literally.
Also interesting from a business standpoint, because like I'm going to talk about this in a minute, but like their commercial business now is interesting to look at. As a matter of fact, I have this written in the notes here because it's relevant now, because in the year 2000, the Boeing commercial airplanes, their portfolio was the 737 Classic and Next Generation. They made both of them. Those are the 300, 400, 500, and 600, 700, 800 variants. They're very common.
They gotta give them names. It's giving me a headache.
They're very common. If you've flown Southwest, you know what a 737 Next Gen looks like.
Yes.
They had the 747, which was on the 400 variant by this point. They had the 757 and the 767 and the 777, and they were still building MD-11s, just the freighters. And they were building the 717, which was known as the McDonnell Douglas MD-95 when it was being developed, but then Boeing bought out the company, and most people thought they were going to kill the project because it fills the same market niche as the 737. They didn't, and I don't think we really know why.
Why have one when I could have two?
It seems like, if I were an airline and I needed some airplanes, I could go to Boeing and I could get a wide variety of different aircraft, which were all very good.
Yes, you could go to Boeing and you could buy a Boeing, or you could go to Boeing and buy a McDonnell Douglas. So that's that is a wide variety.
Yeah. Show me the bad planes.
Yeah, actually, can I get a bad plane? I want a plane
sure.
that's
I'm
gonna
feeling
really
kind of
fuck shit
spicy
up.
today. Can you show me to the bad side of the lot?
Yeah.
The
What can I do to put you in a McDonnell Douglas today?
The 717
fly it right off the lot.
Boeing has kind of done that before, but regardless, well, the 737 Max, where they had all of them parked like a fucking car dealership lot, as quite famously seen in pictures, and also later in the slideshow that I forgot I included there. Yeah, the 717, I don't know why it existed. Delta loves them. I kind of like flying on them because I like the T-tail, the ones with the engines at the back. They're loud, but they're fun.
They can stall in exciting ways.
They can. That's true.
Yeah.
There was that one regional flight that the two regional pilots took up to 50,000 feet, like a jackass stunt, and then crashed it.
Just flying with either of you sounds like a nightmare, because as we're about to get on, I'm craning my neck to read the reassuring text, and then one of you like claps me on the shoulder and goes, "Hey, did you know that this can stall in an entirely like new way?"
Well, that last one I was talking about didn't kill any passengers, just the two pilots, which just kind of
that was like a ferrying flight, right?
Yes.
And they were just like, "Oh, let's see what it can do."
Yeah, I believe they literally said that, actually.
Oh, brutal.
It was a CRJ, so it was also a tiny plane. So additional suffering there. You were dying in the smallest plane imaginable.
I don't want to do that.
It was like the one that flipped over, the Delta one that flipped over in Toronto earlier this year, but like even smaller because it was an older one. Okay, that's the end of the McDonnell Douglas slide. So next slide. Back to the 777 specifically, starting in the 1997, they would start designing what they called the second generation of 777 models, which were they wanted to extend the range of the 200. They wanted to extend the range of both of them, basically. The code name for this project was the 777-X, which is not to be confused with the 777X that is the main subject of this slideshow.
What?
This is a different X.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Here on X, the everything plane.
It's true.
Yes.
They were also building the 747-X, and the MD-11-X had been in development. I don't know. There's a bit of an Elon Musk thing going on here. I don't quite understand it.
It stands for exciting ways to die.
It's true.
Well, these planes were fine, though. You probably were not going to die on
Shut
them.
up. Shut the hell up.
The 777-300X, which became the 300ER, which you're looking at now, thank God. They launched that in 2000. They launched the -200LR long range in 2005. I don't actually quite know why they called it that off the top of my head.
So ER is extended range and LR is long range.
LR is long range. I don't know the difference though.
Well, is it like an EP versus an LP?
I mean, that's the only thing I could really think of.
And I forget which one is longer.
An LP is longer.
Yeah, an LP is usually like a full 12-inch album.
Okay.
I'm actually going to look this up real quick on the range because I'm vaguely curious. Okay, so the 777, so the 200 ER extended range can go 7,065 nautical miles, which is 8,130 miles. There's a kilometers number as well. That's not important.
That's not real.
That's not a real measurement. Yeah.
The long range one can go 8,555 nautical miles or 9,845 miles. So, yeah, the long range is longer than the extended range. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm quite confused here. And I'm the one that wrote the slides.
That feels like about as long as I need to go.
Yeah.
I don't think I need to go longer than that.
Yeah, because this is what this. I'm trying to remember. I think this is what Singapore Airlines used for their 28-hour route directly to the U.S., which they don't fly anymore.
Yeah, that sounds like hell.
Yeah,
It does.
Yeah, they don't fly it anymore for a good reason. Also, it was very expensive because why wouldn't it be?
Right.
Yeah. These second generation aircraft were also perfectly normal planes with no major issues and were popular with the airlines loved them as well. Can't say anything bad about them. They have the code name was very stupid, but otherwise that's pretty much it. By the time the 200LR enters service, though, it's still a 10-year-old design. So, they got to get started working on the replacement for them, by which I mean a derivative because Boeing doesn't build anything new anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Yes. With the exception of the next slide, which was to replace the 767 and also try and claw back the market share they had lost to the A330 very rapidly. Even in the U.S. notably, but also in Europe. U.S. Airways and Northwest were both major airlines by this point, and the A330, you could train their crews on the cockpit of an A320, and they could also use the cockpit of an A330. It saved money for everybody. So suddenly the Europeans are rather popular with airlines in the U.S., with the exception of those that want to preserve their American-only heritage, which at the time was a concerning amount of them. Trying to think, in the mid-2000s, United, Delta, Alaska, and American, except for one type of plane, were all Boeing only because they were in the U.S. and we have civic pride here.
Yes, this is true. I mean, there's nothing we love more than a monopoly.
It's true.
America,
it's patriotic.
Yeah, it's patriotic to be a what's that called? Not a corporatocracy. Whatever. Whatever they ran in the Nouveau Estado in Portugal. Corporatist.
Yeah, sure.
Hey, don't be sassy.
To be fair, we also bought most of our regional jets from Canada, so it was more like a NAFTA corporatocracy than
that the 51st state.
That's true.
I shouldn't even say that.
No.
Oh God, the pain.
Yeah.
So to replace the 7.5 and 7.6 and try to beat the shit out of the A330, they do the 787. They launched that in 2003. It's pictured here in the last good airline livery.
Air China.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just like
because they designed it once and it was good and they stuck with it.
Mm-hmm. That's how communism works.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yeah. They've never had to rewrite Das Kapital. I mean,
no. Marx did in fact consider this.
Yeah. No, that's always what happens when you read the books. It's like, oh, no, Marx did think of that.
Yeah. It's in there.
the Boeing 777X, it's in there.
So the fucking moon in the sky?
Nah, that's in there too.
Hang on, I gotta clean my glasses. Okay, we're good. Whenever they announce this, by the time they announce the 787, the CEO of Boeing is the old CEO of McDonnell Douglas that oversaw the MD-11 development. So this Boeing management tells engineering to build it for less than 40% of the cost it took to develop the 777, and target construction costs at like 60% of what it cost to build the 777.
So listen, guys, I know you guys built the perfect airplane, God's own airplane. Honestly,
sucked though.
The pinnacle achievement of human civilization. But could you do it a lot cheaper?
This is very, very like Soviet decision making, you know, to respond to the good thing by being like, well, it's very expensive.
It's very expensive to do this well. What if we did it really bad?
Bad and cheap, hell yeah.
Could do an episode on Soviet airliners. Actually, that would be an interesting one.
That would be a fun one.
You've talked about the 144, the Concorde knockoff before, if I remember right. Which,
yes.
Yeah.
That was only like a couple slides though. Probably do a whole one on that.
Yeah. You could do a lot of the Russian planes you can, which is funny because, you know, Aeroflot is like, we're going to an all Russian fleet in 5 years whenever they have one Russian plane in their fleet right now. It's very funny.
I was about to say, yeah, those the Ilyushin is not making too many planes right now. I understand.
Yes,
and I don't think Antonov is going to work with them.
Antonov mostly needs to work with themselves and stop getting executives arrested for not flying the big boy out.
Well, they can't. They blew it up.
Well, yeah, but they didn't fly it out beforehand, and the Ukrainian government was very unhappy about this. I don't quite know.
I think everyone was unhappy about.
Well, yes, but the Ukrainian government arrested them for it. I'm not quite sure of the details there. It seems a little strange, but it was a cool plane. Somebody deserves to be punished for that.
I need to know more about this now.
Yes. Yeah. It's very interesting. Okay, they have 3 Russian planes in their fleet right now, but none of them are long. They have 2 Yakovlev aircraft, and they have ordered some of the Tupolevs that the North Koreans fly.
I think only like Cubana has like a Soviet wide body at this point.
I think that's true. They have what was it? The IL-96 and 86 were like those were the big Soviet designs. Cubana has the 96, but I think that one's technically Russian. Yeah, because it was 1992. But it was a Soviet design. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's a plane that also isn't very good.
Yeah, it's like 4 engines, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they didn't have ETOPS in the Soviet Union.
It looks like an A340.
ETOPS in Soviet parlance stands for engines turn or pilots shot.
Anyway, back to my topic. They cut the costs cut the design and construction costs of the 787. It gets delayed. 787. It gets delayed a bunch of times. It was considered like a long and ridiculous delay at the time. Not really anymore in hindsight. Whenever these planes did finally start existing, it was like 2011, and they were mostly fine, except they would catch fire sometimes, but nobody died. It only ever happened on the ground. That was an okay plane at the time. So once they launched that, management takes a step back and realizes, oh shit, this A320 thing has started to become a bit of a major problem.
Yes.
It's very, very popular with airlines in the US, and they had also announced the re-engine version, the A320neo family. Mm-hmm. The A321neo is like what Delta sticks me on every time I need to fly to Seattle now. It's kind of a boring aircraft. I don't like it too much.
I also don't like it very much.
Yeah, it's not the worst thing in the world. Every time I've gotten on one, the seat back entertainment has had I saw the TV glow, and I've watched it, I think, every time.
God.
I
genuinely can't imagine watching that movie more than once.
When I'm on an airplane, I always watch the same movie, which is Airplane.
That's true. This is reasonable.
Yeah.
So when the A320neo family is quickly like the quickest selling airliner of all time, period. We're in about 2011 by this point. Those are projected to start flying like in the mid to late 2010s. So they just eventually they wake up after American Airlines places an order for like 1 billion of them, and they're like, oh shit. That's our best company. We can't do that. So then they start working on a re-engine version of the 737, which takes us to the next slide. That was of course the 737 MAX.
Yes.
Plane that needs no introduction.
This is always a confusing one because you would think, okay, maybe you at least start with the newer airframe, the 757. And no, we're just going to do another 737, guys.
Yes.
It's just because it's like
they're fans.
1 billion years old.
They really wanted to make a Well, There's Your Problem episode. And they did.
And who could blame them?
Yeah.
Just because people who were, when this airframe was designed, there were still people who were alive who shook the hands of Isambard Kingdom Brunel. Yeah, it's probably not accurate, but
just
close enough.
Brunel looking at this and is like, where do you keep the giant lengths of chain?
Where's the coal bunker?
Show it to me.
So the 737 MAX pictured here, don't ask why they're all lined up like that, goes very well for them and is never the center of controversy ever again.
Oh yeah, there's never been a problem with the 737
Episode
MAX.
13, baby.
Yeah, I was gonna say, which is why it's been on. It was on one of the first episodes of this podcast.
I believe that was episode 12A.
12A, that's right.
Yeah,
that was like 6 years ago now. So
yeah.
So after they create God's greatest 737 that will never do any wrong, which I'm not going to spend any time on because I could for a long time, but I'm not going to. After they do that, their executives come together and realize, oh, we're also getting our asses beat by the A350, the wide body sort of 777 competitive Airbus aircraft, which it had been like announced. Trying to think, I think it had been announced in like 2006, and they had gotten, and like the 777 had narrowed down to very few orders by this point, whereas the A350s were getting ordered by like hotcakes. Sorry, I'm pulling up.
It's like live by wire now.
It's true.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to look up the table.
Airplanes. Get your airplanes. Airplanes here. Get them on a stick.
This is so. If you look at the development of new aircraft, they will usually be unveiled at like the Dubai Air Show, and they will usually be like Boeing or Airbus executives will be like flanked by CEOs of like Emirates and everybody who is ordering a shit ton of these.
I hate when I order an airplane at the ballpark and they throw me the airplane and it enters a phugoid cycle and lands on somebody's lap like 2 rows down.
It's true.
He's there with the CEO of Turkish Airlines and also Eric Adams.
The A350 is a plane I don't have much to say about. They replaced the old Interflug A310s that became the German Air Force One. So I'm a little annoyed about that, but otherwise it's fine.
It was so cool that the German Air Force One was full of rats and was built by communists. That's genuinely true. It was called Konrad Adenauer, and it was full of rats. It had rats. There were rats in there, and Merkel was like, "Why are there rats in my plane? Please get the rats out of my plane." And they're like, "We cannot. This was something that we got from the East Germans."
Yeah, because Interflug had wanted to stop buying Soviet aircraft with the softening of relations and all, so they bought the A310 and got 2 of them, and then ceased to exist like a year later.
There's a lesson there, isn't there, about revisionism?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That's true.
What they should have done is put cats on the airplane.
Oh, I love cats.
Oh,
That would have taken care of the rats.
that's true. Yeah, and then maybe you get like a cat problem, but that's fine, you know.
There's no
That's
such thing
fine.
as a
It'd be
cat
great to
problem.
have a cat problem.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's true.
exactly.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Wait,
Get on German Air Force One. You're like, why does it smell like cat in here? Why is everything covered in cat fur?
There's cats all over the plane.
Yeah,
they're not going to chew through the wiring. It's fine.
Yeah, that's true.
No, they might. Toby's real stupid.
Oh my God, he took a shit on top of the autopilot controls.
So yeah, after the 737 MAX launches, the executives have to go back. So they put their greatest minds together, and in 2013, they had come up with, next slide, the next generation of the 777 instead of anything actually new. Was the 777X. Available was the 777-9X and the 777-8X.
I think these people just like letters and numbers at this point. Like,
you built a composite aircraft. Just iterate on that.
I don't know.
No, we're
why...
going to go back to a 20-year-old airframe.
I don't know why they've done a kind of like faux like Junkers corrugated fuselage thing here.
This is that's just like the regular Boeing livery now, which is ugly as shit, but I don't really know.
It's supposed to evoke real American manufacturing, like the Bud Company.
Evokes patriotic American Hugo Junkers.
Yeah.
Say what you want about Bud, but they didn't build the Horizon rail cars.
Yeah, that's true. That was Pullman's standard. And I should have put that in the goddamn news.
Oh shit.
But yeah, the whatchamacallit. Yeah, all those Bud cars are still going. Where are the Boeing planes? That's right, in a boneyard.
maybe if they did try corrugating them for real. I don't know.
You put some stainless steel fluting on the outside of the plane.
Yeah. This is it's a new thing. Make the thing more rigid, but also corrugate it.
Yes.
So they announced this. They like sort of soft launched this in 2013 or so. It doesn't get formally announced until like 2015. It's written on there, September 2015. Notably, this is because, as far as I can tell, it took them 2 years to find a company to order them.
just like,
hey guys,
like we gotta find some kind of rube willing to buy our stupid aircraft, and into the room walks.
Hey guys, what if you wanted an old plane but it was new?
It's like a throwback, except bad.
It's true.
It's you pay the price of like a fully new aircraft, but for an old design.
There are actually some really funny names in the list of people that ordered this, but it's relevant later, so I'm not going to say it now.
Rube number one though. Lufthansa.
Yes.
The
Germans are the first ones. I'm honestly not really sure why, but then again, they still fly the 747, and I'm honestly not really sure why. So
just pre and post reunification, both Germany's and the reunified Germany all making really weird aircraft purchasing decisions.
Yeah, they still fly the A380 even, which is I was going to say very strange for a European airline, but British Airways does, but they're not a European airline.
No,
so I can say that
because of Brexit.
Yes,
been eliminated from the continent.
It's true.
Well, sorry.
I can't remember. Air France might still fly somewhere, but then I'm not going to make fun of the French right now. That's something for later. So they announced the launch order with Lufthansa, and they promised that they'll reveal more at the Dubai Air Show. I didn't realize I'd written that down earlier when I first said that earlier, but.
Hi, it's Justin. So this is a commercial for the podcast that you're already listening to. People are annoyed by these, so let me get to the point. We have this thing called Patreon, right? The deal is you give us $2 a month, and we give you an extra episode once a month. Sometimes it's a little inconsistent, but it's $2. You get what you pay for. It also gets you our full back catalog of bonus episodes, so you can learn about exciting topics like guns, pickup trucks, or pickup trucks with guns on them. The money we raise through Patreon goes to making sure that the only ad you hear on this podcast is this one. Anyway, that's something to consider if you have $2 to spare each month. Join at patreon.com/WTYP pod. Do it if you want. Or don't. It's your decision, and we respect that. Back to the show.
They had introduced the aircraft in 2013, but it did take them like 2 years to find somebody to buy it, to order it.
That's brutal.
Yeah.
He's like, please, somebody, anybody. You guys haven't heard of this new airline? We're calling it Neob. Neob.
Well, but back whenever we first got anti-monopoly laws, before that, Boeing and United Airlines were the same company.
Oh, cool.
You can't
Not
do that
cool,
anymore.
but-
You can't do that anymore in this country. And notably, of course, United did not buy this plane.
Oh, that's brutal.
This was like the 30s. They also had the United Technical Corporation, the one with the weird logo. Anyway.
Oh, good. The UTC.
So by 2015, they have something in terms of like a timeline, and they have these renderings. All of them are in like this red livery that I've shown you. None of them are actually painted in that for some reason.
That's about right. I kind of like the red.
Yeah. I mean, it's better than the blue that they eventually used, which is like the standard Boeing one, but I don't know. It's weird. They used the red on the 747, but I'm not sure. Like the 747-8. So they're showing this to airlines. This form you can see here. I can't draw around it, but it's from the Paris Air Show that year. They are handing this out to industry dipshits, anybody who really wanted one.
Please buy our plane.
So by this point, they're looking to introduce this plane in 2020.
Sure.
After a mere 7 years.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. We'll come back to that. They.
Hang on, Bryn's calling me. 1 second.
Okay.
Sorry.
Now it's just the two of us.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Keep going.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. They show this off. It's the finalized design they start showing off around late 2015, early 2016-ish. It is specifically designed to compete with the A350. It can also be long enough to compete with the 747, which is
it just comes in any length you want. You want it just like the tail butting right up against the back of the wings, we can do that.
Yes.
You want it like a mile long, we can do that too. Aerodynamics, never heard of them.
So it's actually funny because it was too big of an airplane in its original design, and as a result, it had to have it was classified with like all of the 747 and the A380 in planes that need like extended facilities and hangars.
Yeah.
They would come up with a novel solution for this, which is on the next slide, so I won't spoil it, especially since I can't switch slides.
I'm back. It was about golf.
Oh, hell yeah.
I was being called about fucking golf.
Incredible.
Phenomenal.
And it truly insane. What did I miss when I was out for those 30 seconds?
The 777X is a variable length from 3 feet long to infinity.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. That fucks. All right. Yep. I like it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Big accordion plane. It just like extends out like the bellows on an old camera. Yeah. And it makes that noise too.
Oh, that's crazy how it does that.
I gotta get one of them cameras that does the bellowing.
I'm stuck like this now.
I only shoot the cheapest film cameras you can imagine, so that would be an interesting departure from form. So anyways, this is as far as Boeing is concerned, this is 777X, the everything plane.
Oh god.
Wow.
We were really leading up to that one. So anyways, it's designed to compete with the A350, which is obviously never going to do because the A350 has about a decade head start, and also it's time to replace the 747s, which it's also never going to do because that's stupid. It's a one-story aircraft, but it's really long. It's not super great in terms of like maintenance and things because you have to build it with the wings and you have to build it off the ground.
It looks like it's having a tail strike in the image that they're using.
This also is not the longest one. This is the 777-9.
Jesus Christ.
You know, they should clearly what they should do is start to segment it into like flexible, you know, different airplanes and just
like
chain them
bus.
all together. Yeah, exactly. Like a bendy plane. Bus. Yeah. Or just like a train in the sky.
What is it? Plane, but yeah.
Yeah, Skytrain. That's that's what the C-47. Anyway,
yeah.
They so the really long one, the 777-10 X10 10X. Jesus fuck.
Listen, I'm losing the ability to count at this point. So don't
These
worry about it.
I really need them to do a new plane. They're not going to build that unless there's interest in it. 0 orders have been placed for it so far.
Doing it as like a crowdfunded, like a kickstarting my Boeing.
Oh, that'll be the when we get really big and we can afford a big jet like fucking Iron Maiden. We'll get a 777-10.
One airline, like in the future, Singapore tells them that they might be interested, but I think Boeing tells them that they're not just going to build it for the one airline, so they just kind of don't order it. I also don't really know why Singapore Airlines would want them.
It's kind of a pity order.
Well, they have they have height restrictions at the airport.
No, because they fly. Singapore has the A380 still. I think I might be wrong about that. They hate them if they still have them, but they might. Yeah, they do. So whenever when the Dubai Air Show comes around, which is November 2015, Boeing announces orders from Emirates, who orders 150. Qatar Airways, who orders 50, and Etihad, I've never really been sure how to pronounce that. They ordered 25, and several other airlines ordered smaller ones. You'll notice that all of those are like Middle Eastern Gulf Coast operators.
Famously very responsible with their money.
This will continue to be important.
You gotta recycle the petrodollar somehow.
The sort of plain equivalent of a Gucci belt.
Yeah, actually, that's where I'm eventually going with this. So that's we'll get there. But they only ordered. There was a total of 259 plane orders, which are from every airline, which is almost like a normal amount for an airliner being launched. But somehow, because of how expensive they were, this was the most expensive deal for airliner orders in history, totaling $95 billion at retail price. And it seemed like Boeing wasn't really cutting any deals for buying more than a few of them, which is not a good way to do business in this industry because, Airbus got their foothold in the U.S. by offering deals to American carriers. And suddenly, now everybody flies the funny Airbus planes everywhere. Being a rigid manufacturer who builds your planes to the spec that nobody wants and refuses to compromise on the price of them is not a great position to be in.
We'll never surrender to the woke Airbus mob.
One of the
every time you say this, I add another pronoun to the plane.
That's what instead of
you
the
have to do a land acknowledgement to light up the engines now.
That's pretty good.
Instead of calling you the Arsler, the cockpit calls you some sort of pronoun, esoteric pronoun.
Yeah. It calls you sis.
One of the not launch customers but early customers was the official airline of the Islamic Republic of Iran, because it was 2015 and they could do that.
Huh?
A little bit of a thaw, This,
the
JCPOA was kicking off.
This was the Obama era. Things were was cool. They were, and somebody somewhere decided that Iran could buy planes again, and then they couldn't. This order,
just the entire history of U.S.-Iran relations since the revolution is just a series of rug pulls on each side.
No, you hang up.
Just like, oh no, you don't.
Nope.
Fuck you, buddy.
I couldn't remember how many Iran Air bought but it was very funny. I tried to include a picture of one of them in the Iran Air livery in the slide, but nobody ever seemed to have actually mocked that up, which is a shame. They ordered 15 of them, which is a lot considering how expensive they were.
I was about to say, I feel like Iran Air is not necessarily in great financial
with cash,
situation. Yeah.
That year they ordered 50 737 Maxes, 15 regular 777s, and 15 of these guys.
Wow.
Jesus.
Obviously, none of those were ever delivered.
Oh,
yeah, of course.
Wow.
A typical American reliability.
They never formally canceled that order, but I don't think it's on the books anymore, as funny as it would be to be including that in the order number. So next slide.
We're gonna fix relations with Iran before they finish developing the aircraft.
Yeah. It'll be it'll be like the Friendship Bridge. It'll just be the Friendship 777.
Yes.
So they sometime in 2016 they changed the design to include the folding wingtip, which you can see here, this pointy thing. I've read a fair amount about this aircraft, and I'm not super certain what the aerodynamic purpose is.
I thought it was so they could fit it in existing gates.
Yeah, I did say this a minute ago. Yes, the 777X was too big that it had to be at like 747 and A380 gates.
Ooh, she thick.
But if they did this, it didn't. They could fold the wingtips up and it would actually fit at a gate or a hangar and things, which seems like a bit of a cheat. I feel like you shouldn't be able to do that with an aircraft. I don't know.
Well, listen, it's what they say in NASCAR: you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Right? Yeah, of course. Obviously.
So yeah, the A350 has the regular like folded wingtip types, the nice ones that like sort of generally lift up. It's the principles of aerodynamics and so forth. I'm not really, the mindset that went into this is baffling to me because it means that it is another part that will be very expensive to maintain because it is a mechanically operated bit of the plane.
Yes.
I don't know. I genuinely cannot get my head around this, but like
bendy wing. Who says no to a bendy wing?
It's true.
Just an entire company with ADHD. Just like when I got to put a bendy wing on the plane because I'm bored.
Yeah. It's true.
And I want a bendy wing, and I want it to be 2 stories, and I want it to be purple, and I want it to be. They should have cookies when you take off.
It's an airline that used to do that in the U.S., but they don't anymore, presumably because of woke or something.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Bunch of Nazis.
So by this point in time, what Boeing was sort of trying to introduce the most technologically advanced long-haul airplane, and they're also doing literally everything in their power to cut the production costs of it.
How does this go for them?
We'll get there.
Okay.
They also they also build a system to automate the insertion of rivets into the fuselages. This is mainly to circumvent union labor. Matter of fact, it's entirely to circumvent union labor.
Oh, of course.
Yes.
Also, that sounds like something that's damn near impossible to do.
I have good news for you because they shut it down in like 2019.
Turned out it was impossible to do.
Boeing is like one of the great anti-union warriors of this country in terms of stuff that we do for industry. That's why they built Boeing South Carolina, which cannot build planes to save its life.
Good. Fuck you.
No, that's the problem with the 787. They build them all in South Carolina now, and the quality assurance is so bad that Boeing actually cannot self-certify that they're airworthy. The FAA has to do it for them.
Incredible.
Is that plant still non-union?
Yes.
Wow.
As far as I'm aware.
I would have figured they would have managed to unionize it by now.
I mean, they picked South Carolina because it's the least unionized state in the union.
I guess that makes sense.
They have been very aggressive in targeting union organizers. in this plant. Like they've been the IAM has taken them in front of the NLRB like a couple times about it. And like Boeing has made them withdraw complaints in order to ratify a new contract. It's all fucked in every sense.
Jesus.
Right.
So yeah, we don't build 787s anymore because we wanted to use non-union labor, and it turns out they're not very good at it.
Because of woke.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, this is the result.
Woke is the foundation of American society. It
You're not
turns
lying.
out.
Keeps the wings attached to the plane.
The 737 Maxes were union built, so it's not. We don't want to get too aggressive.
Insufficiently woke unions.
It's true.
Yeah,
but
We gotta rebuild the IWW.
Well,
That's
do
true.
we know?
We need to
do we
arm
know
everyone in the what? Go ahead.
how woke was the guy who designed the MCAS system? That's the real question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that was outsourced, so actually probably non-union.
Oh yeah. Well, there's your problem.
Hey, that's the name of the show.
Look at the
Wow.
show that we do.
Good work,
Wow.
everybody.
Yeah.
I can finally wrap it up. It's all been leading up to this.
I'm
Yeah.
Cool.
Jump the
Glad-
shark.
glad to be here for the last episode of Well, There's Your Problem.
Just kidding. We have to make red dickheads.
So they start production sort of somewhere around like 2017, 18-ish, just in sort of like assembling the first prototypes. This goes up until about 2019. They build they roll out the first aircraft in March. They were still telling Lufthansa that they would get it by the summer of 2020. Now, there's the obvious thing here, but also I want to maintain that the 787 was rolled out in June of 2007, and the first airline got theirs in 2011.
Okay.
So
It's been a minute.
So,
yeah,
I've kind of
we're
forgotten
gonna
that you
do it,
ordered those.
Gonna do it in a third of the time. It's gonna
Yes.
be fine.
yes.
You know why? There's no unions in the way.
Well, they were building this in Everett, which is still union,
Oh,
but
okay.
Hooray.
but with the automated non-union rivet inserters. So
I need a
that's good.
union rivet inserter.
we have
that's-
those. They're
that-
called machinists. Yeah.
That's what they
Yeah.
call me. I'll show you my rivet insertion.
Oh my!
Oh, don't sigh at that. That was good.
So, anyways, they roll this plane out. It is 3 days after the second 737 Max crash. So
Oh,
they
you're
did it with
kidding? That sucks.
they did it with not the greatest amount of fanfare in the world, which is fair. I think that's called tact. I'm not really sure.
No one noticed this. I will
Yeah,
just...
Yes.
Yeah, it wasn't me.
I mean that was the defense Boeing had at the time, but like
Oh,
They
well,
used the shaggy
what was
defense.
it? What was it? It's just we outsourced this. Sorry.
no, it was the pilot error was initially what they blamed it
It
on.
was the shaggy
okay,
defense.
Shaggy
Yes.
defense. Sure.
For both of them, the Ethiopian and the Lion Air
Right.
one.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a fucked up time. But
That's brutal.
July of 2019 rolls around, and Boeing tells folks that the first flight isn't going to happen until 2020. They blame the engine manufacturers, which is GE, General Electric, for this.
Yeah, it wasn't me.
They tell airlines that they're still going to get their planes by the end of 2020.
Mhm.
No.
Unlikely.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody in 2020 had a lot of stuff going on that kind of distracted them,
That's true.
especially airlines.
Well, they didn't know that was going to happen yet.
that is, yeah.
Or did they?
My God, it was airlines all along.
Engineering a global pandemic to distract from your shitty airplane.
That's true.
Genius.
So September 2019 rolls around, and on September 5th of that year, September 5th, 2019, Boeing and the FAA were working together and conducting one of the standard tests that they need for certification, called the ultimate load test. It's just ensuring that the airframe can actually handle what it has been engineered to handle, the absolute maximum load pressure.
Yeah,
and whatnot.
I imagine the way that this works is you get a bunch of test pilots in there throwing like heavy boxes and free weights and stuff around, Trying to open the doors.
Yeah,
big ones.
Yeah, a bunch of what else?
You do like a Western saloon brawl in the back.
We're gonna,
you do
exactly.
one of those
We're
in
gonna
the
do
zero gravity test plane too.
Yeah.
You're gonna have some comical spherical bombs go off in there. You're gonna have some I don't know. Yeah, the saloon brawl actually I think should be a test.
It's true.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to know because then you can test what bullet holes do to the fuselage when it's under pressure.
That's a good point. Yeah. Overturning the bar, shoving the catering cart into someone's face, rolling it down the aisle.
So on the topic of what the aircraft does when it's under pressure, in the middle of this test, if you go to the next slide, please. This
looks
is
fine.
Yes.
Looks good. Approved.
Well, okay. At 99% of the ultimate load, it did this, which is just short of what they would have needed to pass the test. It's not supposed to look like that, obviously.
Because what it is a guy got like punched through the plate glass window of the plane.
Yeah. So after the bar top got knocked over, spilling all the drinks.
So for reference,
how did Mongo do this?
For reference, the original 777 went up to 105%. The 787 had gone up to about 101%, and then they released the pressure because they didn't want the airframe to crack because it's made of composites and therefore tends to release dusts that you don't really want whenever it does that.
Yes.
Notably, the 777X is also made of composites, so something to consider.
Everybody in there, besides a bunch of kind of like Tennessee whiskey, also got lungs full of asbestos.
Yes.
Wow.
Just like the Bud Company, where every railroad car gave a shot welder an exotic cancer. That's why they lasted so long. They absorbed the souls of the men who worked on them.
God.
So when they get to 99%, which to be clear is not the percentage that they needed to be, that was 100.
That's one lower.
Yes,
that's one lower.
A crack develops somewhere around the center line of the underside of the fuselage where the wings intersected, which causes the fuselage to rapidly rupture. Crack travels upwards to a passenger door and blows it out entirely in sort of an explosive decompression scenario, except they were on the ground, but it was pressurized. So it was an explosive decompression scenario. As far as
getting
we're aware,
Byford dolphined at 0 feet altitude.
Yeah.
As far as we're aware, the door did fly out violently in the test hangar. I don't know. I don't think it would have caused any damage because, to anything other than the airframe. But
I would assume the test stand is situated in such a way that no one's going to get murdered if the plane fails.
Yes,
catastrophically.
Well, hope so.
Yeah.
The Seattle Times does not actually report this for a couple of weeks afterwards, and they get this picture, which is the best quality I could find of it. Not sure why it's so low resolution.
To look like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
Again, you should at least get to 100% ultimate load before this happens. Hopefully,
90% is pretty close.
Yeah.
Well, this is
A for effort.
Well, actually, the Seattle Times theorized that the FAA was going to take the same approach and pass them forward anyway. As long as Boeing could show that they had fixed the problem on paper, which of course on paper it said it could withstand this much to begin with. So I'm not.
Wow, on paper, the same thing the plane was apparently made of.
Saves weight.
By the end of October, various setbacks, mainly this one, but like a lot of other production problems, meant that the prospects for getting the aircraft like flight certified were pretty grim. Their projected delivery date at this point was 2022, which is a little more realistic than 2020. It's just also wildly unrealistic because, again, 5-year gap from the first flight to the delivery of the 787, which was a much smoother process.
Now, ultimate load here, I would assume, is the normal load that would be expected on the aircraft, plus quite a robust factor of safety.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
50%.
50%.
Yes.
That's
100.
Oh,
150.
yeah, right. That's
Yeah.
I'm a civil engineer. I'm used to like 2 or 3.
Yes. 150% of regular maximum load. Yes. Sorry, I forgot this was an engineering podcast and didn't write that number down.
Yeah.
Also, by the end of 2019, I did write this down here. Also, at the end of 2019, they shut down the automated rivet insertion scab system, which was like 2 years old at this point. Not even.
Well done, assholes.
They sort of quickly discovered that it didn't actually put the rivets in good. Took them 2 years for that? Not really certain.
Some kind of Boeing John Henry trying to outdo the automated rivet machine.
Going to town on the rivets, yeah.
Then passing out and dying. And it's like, wow, actually we can only use the planes he made. Because the rivet machine doesn't
Otherwise,
work.
these are shaking apart, yeah.
Yeah.
Bad for you.
So this wasn't great. This was a big production setback and a big PR setback because, of course, there's some nuances there as to ultimate load versus what would actually be practically what an aircraft's practical load would be. But like, you have a picture of the plane having basically exploded. That's not really good press for anybody.
Yes.
So this wasn't great. But next slide. 2020 rolls around and they're looking for a new. Boeing is looking for a clean slate. They're looking to move on from the 737 MAX failures because they were fixing it, and also to be prepared for a busy summer 2020 travel season.
Yeah, I was feeling great in when 2020 rolled around. I was like, this is going to be my year. I'm going to do great. This is going to be fantastic. No.
Actually, yeah. Oh, the halcyon days of early 2020.
Yeah, of up until the middle of January.
It's like thinking about the halcyon days of 2016. Unfortunately, this was pretty short-lived because January 18th, the Senate committee that is investigating the 737 MAX issues releases a set of emails from Boeing employees. In one of them, they complain that the company is using the same parts distributor and software development team that was doing stuff for the MAX program and on an even tighter production schedule. Now, this was mostly, in this case of the 737, this was mostly for flight simulators. It's not really clear what they were doing for the 777, but the contractor that made 737 MAX parts, not a great company to be.
Oh, no.
Especially in 2020.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Boeing comes out very quickly and says that there's nothing to worry about because the 777X doesn't.
Oh yeah, you love that response.
777X does not have the MCAS system.
Good to know.
It's fine. Don't worry about it. The
Shut
gaslight has always been like this.
Nobody
Don't
had
worry about it.
Nobody had said anything about the
plane's fine.
MCAS system specifically.
The plane's fine. Don't worry about it. It doesn't have MCAS.
Shut up.
Plane's
You
fine.
shut up. You shut up.
Why are you worrying? Stop worrying. The plane's going to be fine.
Says that on the outside instead of the thing that it should say.
The plane is fine. We haven't crashed any of them yet.
Yeah, you never left one up there.
That's true. They have not. They have not crashed any of the 777Xs yet.
It's fine. Don't worry.
January 25th comes around and at 10:09 Pacific Daylight Time. In a rare instance of that not being a bad harbinger on this podcast, the plane actually takes off for the first time. That's what this picture is from, I want to say, the airport, Boeing's airport and manufacturing facility in Everett specifically. I have been there. It's an interesting place. It is where you will see all of these aircraft lined up, ready to never go into service. They build a second plane, which flies on April 30th. They build a third one, which flies on August 3rd. This is the most productive that the airplane has been to date. And since then, not really any major setbacks for the 777X program that year, which is admittedly kind of a reprieve considering between the 737 MAX and COVID, they had lost $11.9 billion that year.
Oh.
And of course, a lot of corporate analysts will say that the 737 MAX was probably the most expensive corporate blunder in history. because it probably indirect and indirect costs probably cost them somewhere north of $60 billion.
That's crazy.
Oh
Jesus.
my God.
I think that was I think that was a Business Insider article. It was not a great time to be Boeing. It's still not a great time to be Boeing.
You are Boeing to go bankrupt.
Yeah. You cannot do. You're Boeing to lose subscriber.
Now, Boeing would lose $11.9 billion this year, which is, of course, a very ridiculous amount of money exacerbated by the 737 MAX and the 777X. So, of course, they're obviously never going to do it again, except in 2024 when they lost $11.8 billion.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
We could run it better than they're doing. Put us on the Boeing board. You are Boeing to
build
hostile takeover.
I could probably build an airplane.
Yes.
Yeah.
How hard can it be?
How hard can it be? You have an engineering degree. Shut up.
Now, granted, a lot of that last year was probably because of the extended work stoppage, but like there was an easy solution for that. It was ratify a better contract.
Yeah.
Or propose a better contract, rather.
Well, it's weird that, they've done all this cost cutting in order to create an aircraft which is much more expensive.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's a really good point, actually. So what are we doing?
Sometimes you get what you pay for.
Mm-hmm. They have cost cut to build a more expensive airplane while still losing billions of dollars every year. And that I think that's genuinely a level of incompetence to aspire to in the corporate world.
That's me, baby.
Efficient allocation of resources.
When I was in college, I took a class on value engineering.
Oh, no.
And in fact, they gave me a certificate afterwards. And all I could think through the whole class was, oh, gee, this is going to cost a lot of money a long time from now.
So
it's like, oh God, I don't want to make this decision.
I want to spend more money. I like spending money.
Let me spend the money now, so I don't have to spend it
so
later.
I'm not being sued into oblivion, right? 30 years from now, right.
In 2021, somewhere in January, in whatever the quarterly earnings call, Boeing tells investors that it won't be ready until late 2023. They blame this on the pandemic, which, whatever. I don't care if it's valid or not. It's just kind of a rotating excuse wheel. It's quite funny to look at.
Just like roll a D20 to generate excuse.
Wait. Is this a serious uncommanded pitch event?
That's the next bullet point. Yes.
I mean, listen, that could mean
Don't
anything.
worry, it wasn't MCAS.
On June 27th, 2021, the Seattle Times reports on a letter that was written to Boeing by the Federal Aviation Administration on May 13th and had been subsequently leaked to them. Sometime in late December 2020, on a test flight, the aircraft experienced a, quote, serious uncommanded pitch event, close quote, which means either the plane went up or down without anybody telling it to do that. They said that they complained about that. They complained about a few other issues that they didn't give enough detail, but we don't know anything about them as the public, which is nice to think about.
Yes.
They talk about a general, quote, lack of design maturity.
Listen, the airplane at this point, the airframe is only about 30 years old. And I'm about the same age. And yeah, sometimes I feel like, maybe I'm not all there. So,
the FAA basically tells them that they're not going to certify, that there's no way they're going to certify that aircraft until mid to late 2023. They won't even let FAA officials on test flights until Boeing has done something to fix it. I don't think it was specific as to what it was. This basically means that by the Boeing timeline, the first delivery would be in 2024. I can't find anywhere that Boeing ever said anything about this letter being publicly released.
Incredible.
Didn't happen. Not real. That was photoshopped.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to think about that. They're just kind of building a plane for themselves at this point, on their own timeline.
Hey, anyone want to buy my plane?
It's called self-care.
My brand new 30-year-old plane.
So now that we're in 2021, next slide, I actually want to take a little bit of a step back and talk about Boeing commercial airplanes as an ongoing concern. In 2000, they made the many different types of plane, the 2 McDonnell Douglas aircraft, 73, 74, 75, 76, and 77. Before 2011, they stopped making the MD-11, 717, the 757, and the 747-400. In 2011, they were making the 2 kinds of 737, the new 747 model, the 76, 77, and 78. So after this, the last passenger 767, visible at top right there, was delivered. So they stopped making those in 2014, leaving just the freighters and the military versions. The last passenger 747 was delivered to Korean Air in 2017. And their livery that still looks great. Then they actually killed it in the time that between me writing these slides and today. They made it bad.
Did they just change it? Holy shit!
Yeah, they've got a whole new brand. It's ugly.
That's awful.
They made it minimal with lines as opposed to colors. It's still blue, so they get that, but it's bad. And then they even discontinued the freighter versions of the 747 in 2023, so they don't make that plane anymore. They're going to build the new Air Force Ones out of the used ones, but that's going to be it for the 747.
That makes sense to me. Yeah.
Yeah. This was a headline a few months ago that they were going to work with Elon to speed up the timeline on that.
Oh yeah.
Oh, incredible.
God.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to
use
that.
One of the starships and then just explode.
Yeah. Hopefully the whole thing goes up like the Fuhrer bunker.
I mean, I could not think of a greater sort of iconographic end to the century of American prosperity than the American-made aircraft blowing up with Donald Trump in it. That would be
just a kind of like
Andy Elon and JD
Polish
Vance.
Air Force One moment, but for America.
Yes.
That was a woke birch tree.
Yeah, no, it depends on who gets left behind that day, and suddenly we have Sean Duffy, President of the United States.
I saw Designated Survivor.
Well, to be fair, that will probably be the 3rd Trump term, so there'll be a new cabinet by that point.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
Stop it, Maya.
Sorry. The last passenger 737 Next Generation was delivered in 2019. The last passenger 777, the original one, was built and delivered to Aeroflot in 2021. Pictured here in a livery that's also quite ugly. So Boeing essentially builds 2 passenger aircraft now. They build the 737 MAX and the 787. And like I said, they can't build the 787 anymore because they keep building them wrong.
Says, I love American manufacturing.
Yeah.
It's coming back, I hear.
I think the tariffs might help.
Tariff Santa is going to fix it.
It's also notable that the tariff thing only sort of affects Airbus because they build A320s in Alabama now. So the decade of the new century of American manufacturing does also apply to Airbus, who is a proud American company who is also anti-union, annoyingly, which is why they're in Alabama of all places.
I was about to say, didn't been a couple instances of like folks trying to build plants in the deep south and like just being astonished that like, oh, no one can read here. Shit.
That the Boeing South Carolina and Airbus Mobile. Those are the 2 of them.
Mobile is outpost of civilization in Alabama. I will say that.
Notably, of course, Airbus Mobile is on track to build more planes this year than Boeing has built non-737s the past 2 years.
Oh God.
That's obviously a rosy estimate of theirs, but still, though, that's great American manufacturing company, Airbus. So basically, By the time 2021 rolls around, they build 2 commercial airliners and a couple more freighters and a shit ton of military derivatives thereof. And they also stopped making several more of those since then. Anyways, 2021. You are Boeing commercial airplanes. Your parent company has lost. Your parent company has lost $12 billion last year. All of your development money is in on the 777X.
And they just can't get this thing to. They just can't fix this thing.
You would hope that airlines would be absolutely champing at the bit to purchase them. Next slide.
Yeah, sounds like a great plan. I let me take 400. Yeah.
On the left, you will see orders and deliveries of the Airbus A350 totaling 1,363. On the right, you'll see the 777 totaling 515. Not great.
Not terrible,
great for anybody.
but not great.
Not terrible, but not great.
Yeah.
I'd like to get in. I would actually like to get in on these orders a little bit more in detail, but I would also like to point out that 515 orders was where the A350 was at in 2010, and that plane launched in 2007. That was 3 years. It has taken them 12 years to scrape together 515 777X orders. Of those 515, 205 are for Emirates, 94 are for Qatar, 25 are for Etihad. 324 are for airlines either in Dubai or Qatar. Never figured out the pronunciation.
Fantastic. Thank you to Rube Airlines.
Yes. Please give us your money.
Guy just waving hand. Yeah, just buy me some planes.
Just keep recycling the petrodollars. Come on.
It's a petrodollar recycling, and it's also a bribe, right? Like, you're not buying these because you really care that much about your airline business. You'll find somewhere for them, and like, hopefully they don't nosedive and kill a bunch of people. But like, mostly it's like, you know,
even if they do, it's
a backhander to American manufacturing. Yeah.
Right.
2 orders are for Silkway West Airline, which is an airline in Azerbaijan that is mostly known for illegally transporting munitions to do genocide. So that's an interesting one to keep in mind.
Baku.
Just the cargo hold being gently kissed by crates and crates of Kalashnikovs.
Basically, at this point, they have built a ridiculously expensive airline. It is, as far as I can tell, the most serious airliner ever produced, and I use the word serious to exclude the A380, which was kind of always a shitpost that they also sold a bunch of to Middle Eastern airlines. The A350 does the things that the airlines actually want, and it's quite a bit cheaper. I don't know the per unit cost. I would not be surprised if it was close to 2/3.
But I thought it was 60% cheaper to build. That's what the executive said. It was going to be 60% cheaper.
And why would they lie?
Indeed.
Yeah. I thought that's what the executive said to do.
Well, to be fair, 60% cheaper to build, doesn't necessarily mean the unit price is going to be lower. They could just be aiming for really high profit margins on this thing.
That's true. What if they actually build these for like $40 each?
If they sell one, they are out of the money problems. That's all they need to do. They need to sell one plane and build one plane successfully. Boeing can't really stop losing money at this point. And we're still a couple years ago at this point. So that's great. I will say that these order numbers are for the current year, but I actually don't think there's been any 777X orders in the past year. So that might not actually be particularly relevant. It is also notable that 0 airlines in the United States have bought them.
Oh, okay.
Passenger, freighter, or otherwise, nobody wants them. Period. Yeah, nobody wants them. Like, United really likes their 787s. American really wants to like the 787s, but they won't. They can't get them delivered because they can't build the 787s anymore. So I think they probably kick the tires on the A350 within the next 5 years. Delta fucking loves the Airbus stuff. They genuinely don't want to touch the Boeings anymore.
Ow.
What?
Hold on. I got a weird cramp in my foot.
You want me to?
We're doing endurance podcasting. It's fine.
Yeah.
Need to flash up the. No, it's all good. We just need to flash up the thing ahead of time. That's like photosensitive epilepsy can strike at any time, and also remember to like get up and drink water and walk around for a bit every couple of hours.
This is true. One of the things that's frustrating about this, as an airline passenger, I do prefer Boeings because the windows are bigger.
This is true.
Yeah.
What do you need the big window for? To see all the land you have stolen?
No, I need to see why you need a big window. To see men?
Because we would support this because we are the worker option, obviously. Yeah.
This is true, and this is true especially because I sit in the aisle seat typically, so I like to, see. It's easier to see out there. But most of the airlines that have purchased this are airlines with either very strange fleet configurations or airlines with too much money, which covers most of the Middle Eastern airlines we've talked about. It also covers Singapore Airlines. Korean Air and Lufthansa are both airlines that have weird configurations. British Airways has ordered like 50 of them, which is I would kind of want to make fun of Britain for it, but we make the plane. So I'm not sure what direction I can take.
What are we in this for?
But you did buy the plane at least, so that part's on you.
I'm not saying we're not stupid.
Relationship.
It's true. All Nippon Airways and Japan has bought them, but they are in a bizarre relationship where they cannot stop giving Boeing money for some reason. Air India also bought some. It's also kind of strange. I'm not really sure why. There are zero American carriers, only the 2 European carriers, and I'm counting British Airways in that. Ethiopian has some, Cargo Lux has some, the cargo airline.
This is also sounding better and better, I think. This is good, right?
This is true. So of course, so they can't seem to sell them to any airlines, which is great. Even whenever development and manufacturing is going well. Next slide, please. This is a picture of an engine. We'll lead up to something to do with that. Early 2022, Boeing tells investors that the plane is delayed again, this time to 2025, which is the current year.
Wow. Mm-hmm. That means it'll probably come out this year, right?
Yeah, dummy.
Yeah.
In October of 2022, Boeing experiences what they call a technical issue.
It's an uncommanded stock price pitch event.
They attribute that to one of the aircraft's engines. They don't really elaborate. But they suspend test flights as a result.
Oh, that's how you know it's going well.
Yes. They don't really clarify when they restart test flights, and I can't really find any information on it. I probably could if I wanted to look through flight logs enough, but I honestly don't. Best as far as I can tell is like early 2023. That is actually the only thing that happens in 2023. It's otherwise fine. They just keep flying it on test flights over and over again and not getting it certified. But none of them crash, so that part's good. 2024, Boeing is still telling airlines that it'll be delivered by 2025. Lufthansa is telling investors that they think it'll be like 2027 at the earliest. In August of 2024, they take a test flight from Washington to Hawaii, where they give a routine maintenance inspection, which reveals a crack on the thrust link of the engine, which is circled here. It's the big piece of titanium that actually transfers the thrust from the engines to the airframes. Boeing initially dismisses this as just a trivial issue for the one singular test airplane, although the fact that it was on both engines means, as far as I can tell, means that that's obviously false to begin with. They promised to replace it on that airplane and inspect the rest of the fleet in short order. They do that the following week, where they find cracks in the thrust links on every single airframe that they have built to this point.
That sounds. Titanium's a metal. If there's a crack in
titanium's a metal. Justin Rozak, you heard it here first, folks.
Listen. It's ductile. It's ductile. It shouldn't be cracking in the first place under any kind of normal load.
So that they ground the whole program again, and they sort of blame it on the engine design, which is a tacit way to pass blame to General Electric. Problem is they built the thrust link. So,
oops.
Whoopsie daisy.
So, that's great. So this is August of 2024. What comes up next is not directly related to the plane, but it's not great. Next slide, please. Every single IAM machinist that is building the 777X is now on strike as of September 13th, having rejected the proposed contract given to them with 94.6% of the vote, which is not where you want to be in terms of negotiating these things.
Seems like maybe you should give them a better offer.
Yes. On October 8th, all negotiations between Machinist Union and Boeing break down completely, and they walk away from the table. Boeing files a complaint with the NLRB about this for some reason. I'm not really sure why. I think the best descriptor I can come up with for it would be whining. On like a corporate level. Doesn't matter. It doesn't go anywhere.
That's all they got these days.
Yes. On October 12th, the CEO of Boeing had announced a 10% cut in their total workforce, laying off 10% of all workers company-wide, union and non-union, to my understanding. And of course, at the bottom of that statement is buried a delay of the 777X project to 2026.
Any day now.
Yes.
Any day now.
Damn.
On October 14th, the president of Emirates, which is, of course, again, the largest customer of the 777X, and buys a lot of planes from Boeing in general, goes to Business Insider with a statement of how pissed off he is at Boeing management.
Nice.
Which is not where you want to be as a company, to have your biggest customer for the project be very mad at you. And talk about how, nobody could ever trust delivery timeline your company ever gives ever again. Interestingly, I don't think they actually reduced the order after that. He just kind of wanted to be mad online, which is fair. You can do that.
Yeah, we all love to do that.
Especially if you're a CEO nowadays. It is, in fact, in vogue to be a CEO and very mad online.
This is true.
So, yeah, not great for them. IAM and Boeing eventually ratify a new contract on November 1st, which they do with 59% support from union workers, which isn't a great number if you are a union or management.
This is true. Yeah, that is
not so good.
You're better off if you have like Assad numbers.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what you'd prefer to have.
Yep. So this strike this work stoppage and strike lasts about 2 months. It costs Boeing about $10 billion.
Fuck me. Good.
So again, they cannot stop losing money. They eventually fix the engine, the thrust link problem. I wrote the engine thrust doohickey, which is kind of fair. That's what it looks like to me. They are flying test flights again by mid-January of this past year, so 4 months ago, or whenever it is. I accidentally saw the first test flight. It was in the Costco parking lot, which is just short of Boeing Field in Seattle. Myself and my girlfriend were both very stunned and pointed and laughed at it. So it's a large aircraft. It's impressive to see. It just also is a bad aircraft.
I like that.
Yes. Boeing later in January tells Lufthansa that they should expect delivery in 2026. Lufthansa, of course, previously had projected 2027. I believe by now they're probably projecting 2028.
Oh, it's never coming, huh? This fucking slaps.
Yep.
So, everybody, including Emirates this time, is pretty skeptical of that. That's where we are today. Boeing makes 2 commercial airplanes. They are the 737 company, pretty much specifically at this point. They're moving their headquarters to the Pentagon. I suspect at this point they only give a shit about defense contracts, especially now that they're going to be able to get a lot more defense contracts.
It's going to be interesting when Airbus has a global monopoly on passenger planes.
We'll think
That's
the
true.
same thing.
Much safer though, because of the wokeness.
But I guess,
wire.
Yeah.
But that's where we are today. The plane is supposed to come out in 2026 or 2027 or 2028, depending on who you ask.
Great. I love when a plane is in development hell.
Yeah, me too.
Yes.
I like. Yeah, it's like new Doom. Exactly.
It's confusing and infuriating.
When does the Dark Ages come out? Soon. May 15th. I'm so excited.
refers to a paucity of sources rather than a period of intellectual decline.
I was also going to say that.
I know.
My bet is that Boeing is just out of the industry by like the 2030 probably. Like, not just with this plane. My guess is that they spin off the 737 into its own company and just take defense money.
It refers to a paucity of airplanes, not a well, and also an intellectual decline. Let's get real here.
Yeah. So there's no number for what the 777 program has cost them in total.
A lot.
My like random off the back of my ass number is probably somewhere in the 20 billion mark, especially because they keep taking tax penalties whenever they delay it more.
It's all McDonnell Douglas's fault.
Genuinely, this is what most people think.
Yeah.
This is what McDonnell Douglas has wrought.
We're going to wind up in a situation where it's impossible to build airplanes. The intercity buses have all sold themselves off into oblivion.
Or maybe Alfa Romeo again.
And then Trump privatizes Amtrak. And then no one's going to be able to go anywhere anymore. They are going to impose 15-minute cities because it will be impossible to get 15 minutes away from your house.
That's all that I have. It's a great company with a great legacy. And
that's just
I'm saying that very tongue in cheek.
Shitting it up. All right, we want to move on to safety turd.
Wow, what do we learn?
This plane's never coming, bro.
If it's Boeing, you ain't going.
You ain't going. But if it's McDonnell Douglas, we're gonna kill you.
I will work on the shirt. I have like once an episode now. I generate a bit that I can turn into a shirt. We'll put a link in the description to the store where you can buy them.
This is excellent. I can buy that one.
All right. Well, we have a segment on this podcast called Safety Third.
Oh, he's sleepy.
Shake hands with danger.
No, I got stressed out because someone's in my backyard doing something.
Again? Why?
I don't know. There's a drill going, I think.
Looking for your nuclear weapons.
I know, right? That's not mine. Ahoy, November, Justin, Liam, and various guest hosts.
Correct.
Yeah, no.
Guest host plural is slightly questionable if you wanted to nitpick something, but
shut up.
Today's story involves a rusty pickup truck, a 1930s tractor, a forklift, a bunch of World War II veterans, child labor, some ropes, a military cargo net, a couple of old mattresses, and most importantly, a Boeing B-29 Super Fortress.
Hell yeah.
What do you call an act like
Thematic.
The aristocrats. Hey, I'm on it.
As a teenager, I volunteered as an apprentice mechanic at a local aviation museum.
Oh, no.
On this particular day, our task was to remove the vertical stabilizer from a Boeing B-29 Super Fortress that was slated to be restored. The all-volunteer staff included myself, 2 other high schoolers, and 5 WW2 veterans.
When was this? Because how old are these men?
Oh, that's a good question. I think that's revealed later.
Okay.
Being the most athletic and nimble of the crew, my role was to use various ladders to jerry-rig a cargo net borrowed from a local military unit around the top of the stabilizer, then to attach some ropes to it, and then attach those ropes at one end to an antique tractor, usually used for mowing the outdoor display area of the museum, and to a heavy-duty pickup truck at the other end.
They're going to tear it apart like by lashing it to horses?
Yeah.
The idea was that I would remove the bolts on one side of the stabilizer and loosen the bolts on the other side and have them act as a hinge. The pickup truck would pull on the rope, and eventually gravity would tilt the vertical stabilizer slowly down onto the horizontal stabilizer, which had used mattresses that I would position on top of it to act as cushioning. The attached 1930s farm tractor at the other end would use its brakes, operated by a geriatric born in the 1920s to control the descent.
Hell yeah. America's greatest generation.
We began this stupid mission, which in hindsight should have been done with a crane.
I feel like the phrase "we began this stupid mission" attached to a B-29, not the first time. Probably not even the 1000th time.
At first, everything was going well. I ascended a ladder, leaning against the right horizontal stabilizer with a bag of tools, and removed the rusty hardware from the vertical stabilizer attach points of the B-29. Then scrambled down and climbed another ladder on the left stabilizer to position the mattresses we had forklifted up. While I was stepping over the forklift tines, adjusting the mattresses, without any fall restraining gear, with only one exit other than jumping to my likely death.
Pretty high up.
The dear old man's foot on the ancient tractor slipped off the brake.
Great. Excellent.
Because he was in his 80s. And it was an ancient tractor, and the colossal tower of America's previous power started coming down really fast.
How do you ask someone to be the last person to get killed by a B-29 Super Fortress?
I remember hearing the truck driver yelling, "Oh, God, no."
Oh, Jesus.
I've read Randall Jarrell's poetry. I know these things are powered by blood, and you got to recharge him every now and again, but, like, seems unfair for it to be high schoolers, at least high schoolers in the 80s.
Yeah, exactly. Thankfully, I was an athletic 15-year-old at the time, so was able to parkour-style flip myself off the stabilizer. Somehow I landed on a forklift as the massive sheet metal beast came down with a thump so big it shook an entire B-29, which weighs approximately 75,000 pounds. Thankfully, I had positioned the mattresses in a way such that it was only lightly damaged and was later repaired by skilled sheet metal technicians.
Hit it with hammers. Hit it with wooden mallets until it looks right again.
Hammers, yeah.
God bless you for having for the mattress positioning work there.
Yeah. I was about to say, well, the good news is, the tariffs are going to bring back this type of, this type of skill set,
Yeah.
Specifically the 15-year-old part as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I climbed off the forklift, which saved me from a roughly 12-foot drop to the ground. And after catching our breath, one old soldier said, "Well, that was scary, but we still got the job done. Let's continue." So I again climbed aboard the weary bomber and removed the hardware on the other side, cut all the remaining wires and control cables. I took the borrowed cargo net off and used the ropes and the net to kinky bondage style wrap the stabilizer to the forklift. And we lifted the vertical stabilizer, which was now a second horizontal position. Now, okay, yeah. Off of the B-29 and into a hangar where the wacky army of kids and geriatrics muscled it onto wooden sawhorses.
This is you had an apprentice job working for the boomers in Fallout New Vegas.
Mm-hmm. I sometimes reflect on weird ways to be killed, and being killed by a World War II bomber 50 years after the end of World War II is admittedly pretty weird.
Can't argue with that.
I dearly enjoy your show and look forward to many future episodes. All the best from Piper.
Good name to work with planes.
It's true.
Yes.
Thank you, Piper.
This is what happens when you work with Boeing airplanes.
I was going to say, it has been a great day for Boeing aircraft in general here.
How do you say "you are Boeing to die" in German?
Anyway, that was Safety Third.
Shake hands with danger.
Our next episode will be on Chernobyl. I don't think we did any announcements about the tour. There are still tickets available in New York City on the 29th and in Philadelphia on the 4th.
Yep. I will regretfully not be there in person on account of I don't want to go to El Salvador.
Yes, that
Reasonable,
is a strong issue at the moment.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any commercials before we go?
Says something about the worst of all possible worlds.
No, I copied that from an earlier episode. Everyone knows I went on Worst of All Possible Worlds to talk about Falling Down. I've probably said that 3 times now because I've copied the slide 3 times.
Flying home in a straight line.
Yes.
I need to get tickets for the Philadelphia show and figure out a way to go.
We'll figure out a way to comp you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Maya, thank you so much. If the people want more Maya, where can they find more Maya?
You can find me at a lot of places. The easiest way is to actually go to my website, the Maya Ventura Information Network. That would be www.maya, M-A-Y-A, walkwith.me, M-E. That is a David Lynch reference.
Oh, yeah.
So if you need to know how to spell any of that, just look up the Twin Peaks film. You can find me on X, the Everything app, 777X, the Everything plane, under... the same username without the dots. You can find me on Blue Sky at the same username with the dot because it's weird federated systems. You can find me in print, hopefully, by the time this comes out. You go buy 2600 magazine, which is available at most Barnes & Nobles. I write a Substack, which is how I got here, because I wrote an article about this. Subscribe to my Substack, please. I am poor and would like money. I think that's it.
All right.
Fantastic.
More like 777X, the nothing plane. Because
That's true.
Oh, got their ass.
Yeah. Wow. All right. I think
Thank
we
you.
did it. That was a podcast.
Yeah.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone.